All right, welcome to the Sae Bae cast, number 198 with Oxie and Michael of the XP Waste podcast. How you two gentlemen doing this fine evening?
We
Pretty
are
fan.
doing pretty good. We are
Yeah,
doing
pretty
pretty good.
fantastic.
Like we said, fantastic to finally meet you. Fantastic to meet you.
Yeah, it's great to meet you both. As I was saying to you both before the recording actually started, I have been on a little podcasting run where I've gotten some other OSRS podcasters on my own podcast, and honestly, fantastic conversation. So I expect nothing less from this one. You guys seem to have it going really well. When I look at your guys' podcast on Spotify, you guys have been extremely consistent. You guys have almost been going for 4 years now. You said 4 years in March, correct?
Yeah.
And I'm just very impressed. I just feel like starting a podcast where you really don't know where you're going. It's not like you're starting a podcast. You're like, yeah, we have a 5-year plan laid out to be consistent. No, it really just starts out as a rough project for most people. And then the ones that actually succeed, you just see they just keep putting out. That's all it is. It's just you have to keep publishing. And I'm impressed with what you guys have been able to do. So yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
We've only kind of been making it up this whole time. So, appreciate that.
Let's just take. So I want to get you. There's so many branches to go off of right now. I could do introductions or anything, but let's start with the inception of your guys' podcast. How did it come together originally? Have you guys been lifelong OSRS players? Were you guys friends before this? Let's just dive into it. I'll just have you guys. Both.
Yes and no. Michael, take it away. I know you kind of you have the origin down pat for sure.
Yeah. So 2021. We started the podcast and we recorded our early episodes, and I mean the start of it was really just this idea of I wanted to start a podcast because I had been streaming most of 2020. I got a PC with the stimulus check that we got from the pandemic, and I started streaming. I was making a YouTube series that went nowhere, and it wasn't as fulfilling as I wanted it to be. The streaming and playing RuneScape and all that is how Oxie and I actually met. So it's it's part of the origin story in some ways, but I was looking for another creative outlet, and I did this random work training for a new thing that we're doing, and they wanted us to present what we learned in a unique way. And so I was like, oh, I've been listening to podcasts a lot. I'm just going to make a podcast and make it kind of fun and recap everything that I learned during the training. And so the short recap podcast I made for that project was only 3 minutes. But it sparked something in me to where I was like, this is actually a lot of fun to do different segments and transitions and all that. So I sat on it. I think that was in January or February of 2021. And I sat on it. I thought about it for a while, theory craft all the things it could be. And then one day I was just like, you know what? It's never going to go anywhere unless I actually start it. And I'm like, I don't want to do this alone. So I messaged Oxie on Discord randomly, and I was like, hey, do you want to host a podcast with me? He's like, I've never listened to a podcast before, but sure.
Really?
So he had no idea.
He had never listened to one.
I think he
the only one I had ever listened to was Call Her Daddy, which was if you're totally new to podcasts, it was two girls in their late 20s just in the most vulgar way possible talking about sex and partying and all that. And so when Michael, a guy who was my age-ish at the time, reached out and was like, hey, do you want to start a podcast? My initial thought was is that the route he wants to go? There's no way. But yeah, that's the only podcast I had kind of listened to before starting XP Waste.
So episode 1 was a bit of a train wreck, I'm imagining, right? You guys had you had two separate mindsets going on. Oxie starts talking about whatever he remembers of podcasts.
Yeah. Michael's like, yeah, what's your favorite pet? I'm like, so here's how you please a woman. It's a very different vibe. No. That's not how it went. I promise. That's not how it went.
That's good.
Was there
That's
any
good.
apprehension on your part, Oxy, or were you just like, let's go, let's do this?
I don't know if apprehension is the right word. I have always been very good at like public speaking and kind of, I don't want to say being the center of attention because I despise that, but like I'm good at making conversation with people, right? I had been streaming myself for like 2 years at that point, so I have had my fair share of like talking to crowds of nobody and talking to like 100 people when a big raid shows up. So for me, it didn't feel awkward to like talk necessarily, but Michael and I were like acquaintances. Like we're friends, so I feel like we definitely weren't as close as we were now.
We had known each other for less than a year.
Yeah, it had maybe been like 4 or 5 months, maybe a little bit longer than that. Like
it probably 6 months of like hanging out. Because we met like June or July of 2020, and then we all like started this Discord in September, and then from there we had a bingo event and like basically spent every day in VC and hanging out. And so we had crammed like a couple of years of friendship into those like 4 or 5 months, I think.
Yeah. That's so sick. It wasn't necessarily like, oh my God, what do I do with my hands? It was like, cool. What is there a topic? Like, do we have a plan? What are we discussing? And I think it worked out well enough. So
nice. Yeah, that's awesome. See, this was, I feel like one of my concerns starting the podcast was just the kind of like uncomfortability of being alone, because obviously the Sae Bae cast is just a lone host talking. But I definitely had some experience with just being in awkward situations with somebody where I'm just forced to talk. So even though it's not my, preference to be in a lone call with somebody I've never talked to before, they go pretty well if you just have that mindset of like, I'm a host of a podcast, this is what I'm doing. It's a little bit different. Like I feel like the atmosphere is a little bit different for the guest and myself as well. So yeah, that was always something that was on my mind. Like, oh, it'd be so cool to get a co-host, but then that just adds so much more complexity. Just literally one additional guy to plan around for his stuff, and who knows, maybe he's not playing RuneScape and he's burnt out, and then I have to like drag him on. Like, are you sure? Just that would go on in my mind of thinking about a co-host.
So glad you didn't overthink it. My God.
I have such bad tendencies to overthink. It's like I will go through so many scenarios in my mind, just making sure this is, what would be most optimal. So have you guys ever had any like problem scheduling, both of you, like, or just like, have there been times where one of you doesn't really want to do it and the other guy has to like drag you along, or how has that gone?
Yeah. I mean,
when we first started, yeah, that is true. Things come up literally all the time. I think it was probably the quote unquote worst when we first started. I was still in graduate school at the time, so my schedule would go from like, all right, we can record on Mondays after I get home from fencing practice, and we would record from like 9 p.m. to like 11 o'clock or whatever time that was, because like it was peak COVID, nobody had a job, nobody gave a shit, we're just recording whenever. And then we were switching our days recording, and then, oh my goodness, Michael had a baby, and like this, like probably the first 50 episodes are chaotic recording wise, and then we switched to like, let's record on Sunday afternoons. Let's like hop in Discord at like 12, 1 o'clock and just chat for a couple hours. How long have we been doing that, Michael? Because that has been consistently like the best time that we have found to record together. Sometimes we'll switch it to a Saturday, sometimes we'll do it Monday night, sometimes one of us won't be able to make it, and we'll just like hit up Sparry or Bird and be like, hey, what are you doing tonight? Cool, you're coming on my podcast, like as a guest host. So things do pop up, but for the most part, I mean, yeah,
I mean, if you're looking for
pretty well for almost 4 years now, so that's impressive.
Yeah. I mean, we, like you said, like, is there any sort of like discrepancies or planning mishaps? It happens, but actually, I feel like we're pretty much the same person when it comes to, if one person doesn't want to do it that week, we're just like, okay, we'll take a week off. That's why. So you said you started late 2020. We started like early 2021. You're almost at 200 episodes.
Yep.
And we're at 175. So around the same time frame, you've got us by like 20 episodes, and that's because we've taken quite a bit off.
Yeah, it happens. Have you ever gone on like the double time where you're like, ooh, let's make up and let's do 2 in a week, or has it always just been just
we did
suck,
that one time and it felt horrible.
Really?
We did it one time around the time of the blowpipe nerf, and
we recorded 2 episodes in one night.
We recorded 2 episodes in one night.
It was
I
so
changed
weird.
my shirt. It was
like
rough.
Drying your tears with it of like the DPS nerf, or what was happening? Why
Well,
were you so?
It was weird because we were trying to like talk about things that hadn't happened yet and make it seem like time had passed. So it felt disingenuous.
Oh, that is awkward. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, because we're like, hey guys, we definitely didn't just record like 2 hours ago. It was the last episode, and we're here again. What's up? It's been a week, but it hasn't been a week.
Yeah.
Was,
so did you actually
strange,
deceive them, or
sure.
was it transparent that no, this is actually just
We're
recorded?
always trans.
Okay.
We're always
Yeah,
transparent.
we're kind of funny about it sometimes. You know, at least I like to think so. But no, we definitely were like, yeah, we recorded this. Like, we took like a 5-minute bathroom break and just came right back.
So how many? You guys mainly do the podcast, just you two, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, how many? Do you even know the number of how many guests you've had on? Is it like a lot, or can you count them on like 2 hands?
Oh man, it's more than 2 hands.
Okay.
I would say.
And how do you schedule that? Do you just have one of you guys reach out to some person in the community and be like, "Hey, you want to come on the cast?" How does that all work?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes we'll do that. Sometimes one of our buddies, Jake, he has, I want to say, it's going to sound sketchy. He's got connections from the old like RS3 original OSRS days. So he's hit up people like, you know, Zulu and folks like that to be like, hey, you want to come on these people's shows? And they're like, okay. And they join the Discord and they're like, oh, wait, you're not the host? And Jake's like, no, I just like him. So, you know, come hang out. And they do.
Just
and
get
it's
shanghaied and do like some random podcast. You're like, what? What's happening?
honestly, that's how it's happened sometimes, but it's been so much fun. I think that's how we also got Hanani on the show the first time. And yeah, it's sometimes it is truly just like sliding into people's DMs and being like, do you want to come on my RuneScape podcast? And seeing if they say yes or even read your message.
Story of my life.
Sometimes it's easy. Sometimes like we're still waiting on a reply from Post Malone, Michael. You know, we really held out for that one for a little while.
Dude, it could happen. It could because
it's only been It's only been 2 years. It could happen.
I have a funny story about Post Malone actually.
Yeah.
No.
One of the guys on my bingo team, I won't say his name in case he doesn't want to, you know, have his name shouted out, but he grew up down the street from Post Malone. And he said that he did one of the quests on Post Malone's account back in RS2. Cuz like what's his name? Austin Post, I think is his real name. Post Malone. He's like, Austin didn't know how to do it, so I just did it for him. I logged into his account and did it. But I thought that was really cool. So like 1 degree of separation for me with Post Malone.
That's crazy. I feel like that's such a bizarre thing to have grown up with somebody that later becomes extremely famous.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys have anything like that? Did you used to know somebody that became well known?
No.
Well, yeah, I kind of, just sort of did my thing and then started this crazy popular RuneScape podcast, and then, I just sort of became world renowned from there. What can you say though?
I know Oxie's dad. He gets a shout out every week on our podcast. So
I don't know if that makes him famous. But
he's super famous.
This is actually so random. Let me just ask that. What do your parents think of your guys' RuneScape podcast? Do they know about it? I'm assuming Oxie's dad knows about it, right?
So yeah, my family does know about it, and I have been playing games my whole life. Like in my old living room, we had the Xbox, So we had the Xbox 360 on like one corner, and then on the same wall in the opposite corner was the family computer. So on the one hand, we would have like me playing video games with my like shitty single ear Turtle Beach headset, playing like the original Black Ops with my buddies. And then the other side would be my mom listening to music, my dad doing work, or my sister doing homework. So all of my immediate family members were like immediately exposed to like, this is how Oxie plays video games. They don't call me that because that would be weird if they called me that, but this is his thing. He really likes video games. Then when I inevitably started streaming on Twitch, it was like 2018. I had just moved back from college, and I was like the only person that I knew in town who was not either 6 or 40. So I'm like, I need friends. I'm going to start a Twitch account. And my dad would like kind of tease me about it back and forth, about like, oh, you're sitting talking to like 2 people. How does that work? That you're like living in my house and somehow making money and not paying me rent? And like, that's always been like a thing that he's done. So when I told him about, hey, we're doing this podcast, it was like, oh, look, another video game podcast, just kind of like teasing me about it, talking to 0 people. That's crazy. And then it turned into like, no, we hit like, like 1,000 views in our first couple of weeks. And we've got, now it's 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, and now it's, 50,000 plays, and now we're making this much money on Patreon, this much money on ad revenue, this much money on YouTube advertisements. And my family has kind of been like, holy shit, this is like a real thing. I'm like, yeah, we have merch. Sent all the family merch, sent them Christmas cards. It's actually bled into my extended family, where they know that I talk about them for the Thanksgiving episode, because I go to the same extended family's house. So the cousins on that side have started listening to the episodes around the time of Thanksgiving. And my youngest cousin was like, I'm going to go to their merch store, and I found a design I really like. And my cousin has a hoodie of Zulra that is the same design I have as a tattoo on my leg, because we sold that as a merch store. So like my whole extended family is like aware this is a thing that I do. But it's also interesting because like this is not my career. Yeah. This is just sort of like a hobby. But yeah, my family's aware. My dad supports. He keeps saying, like, as your longest running Patreon subscriber, I'm getting a flight to England for RuneFest, right? He has no interest in going to RuneFest. He just wants to go to England. And I'm like, I don't know about that one, dog. But yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's cool. What about you, Michael? Your family know about it?
It's not as extensive as Oxy's. Like my mom and dad, they're aware. My siblings are aware. The only people who ask me about it are my mom and dad. They're like, "Hey, how's the podcast going? You guys got more Patreons?"
Yeah, they call them Patreons, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, hey, even I make that mistake here and there. It slips out.
It's true. They're always like, "Well, can I watch you? Can I watch you record the podcast?" I'm like, I mean, no, but you can listen to it. And then I'm always worried that they're gonna listen to it.
Oh, do they not? Like, have they not? Like, do you not know if they're?
Think so.
Oh no.
I would hope not, because they're kind of religious, and so like they would probably clutch at their pearls with Oxy's potty mouth.
Yeah. Yep.
No, and they know nothing about RuneScape, so it would be very boring for them.
That is exactly the same situation as my parents, both religious. So like they basically just resisted all of my content. I started on Twitch, instantly started swearing, like just the potty mouth came out. Whenever I was at my parents, I would never swear, I'm respecting, because, I grew up that way. And yeah, so instantly they're just not even actually just watching any of my content. Then I started a podcast, and then all of a sudden my mom called. She's like, "Oh, I listened to one of your episodes." I'm like, I don't know what I talked about, but I get personal sometimes. So now I'm like, oh geez. But yeah, my parents do listen here and there, and
hey mom, hey dad,
I've had some personal stories, so I feel like there's probably stuff they hear and they're like very disconcerted. They're like, oh, geez. But what can you do?
That's how it be sometimes,
Yeah, you just
how it be sometimes.
Yeah, you just gotta like live your life, because I was always a little bit nervous of somebody, especially streaming, just thinking of like a past friend like finding my stream, how embarrassing that would be. Nowadays I'm just like, I do not care. And like that's only happened not even at one handful of times out of like 6 years of content creation, where somebody just comes in that I know, that makes it clear that they knew me. So.
Yeah, see, like that has never bothered me as much. Don't get me wrong, it's a little weird to like, you know, you're in like the talking stage with someone and you're like, sorry, I didn't answer you for 6 hours on Sunday. I was recording my RuneScape podcast. Like, yeah, that's always a little strange. But as far as like talking about it in real life with coworkers and whoever else, like it's not really bothered me anymore.
Yeah. Same. I feel like that just comes with age. And you guys are how old?
I'm old, man. I'm 32.
Okay.
I am 28.
I'm 29. So
Oxie's the age now that I was when we started this podcast, or our podcast. He's really growing up.
I actually thought Oxie was the older one, I'll be honest.
It's my young face, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I think it is. Got a very youthful look. So, and you have a kid, you said, right?
I do.
And you had the kid in the podcast, not in the podcast, but you know what I mean.
I was live on the show. It was crazy.
Yeah. Conceived on the fucking show. What episode? No, God.
Yeah.
All right.
No,
you
like
want to talk about demonetized.
It's been fun to like. I don't like. I talked about him a lot in the early episodes.
Yeah.
And then I just came to this realization, and my wife and I both, that like he has no consent on whether or not his life is being broadcasted on social media, and as an adult, you get that consent, right? You can give consent to be like, yeah, don't post my picture, don't talk about me, don't say my full name, blah blah blah, and like he doesn't have that, and so I'm respecting his anonymity, whatever that word is.
Yeah.
Yep, that one. Trying to respect his, like, the ability for him to remain anonymous until he can consent to being part of it.
That's very respectful, honestly. That's a respectable thing to do.
It's so weird, dude. Like, having a kid in the digital age we're in now. Like, there's things that you don't have to think about, and there's things you do have to think about that weren't a thing when we were all growing up in the 90s. Like, I don't know, like, and this is no judgment to any other parent, but like for me and my wife, like I said, we choose to not really post about him on social media, and I'll like my Instagram is private, and so like I'll post a picture of him like once every 6 months just to kind of be able to look back. But it's a weird world out there, and as much as I can do to keep him out of it until he can say whether or not he wants to be in it, I'm going to try my best.
Yeah, that's smart. It's so weird thinking. I've had this conversation with a few different guests on previous episodes, just how the internet and social media in particular originated versus how it is now. I mean, I remember when I got on Facebook for the first time, I was like 12 or 13, and how much fun it was to just go in my bio and fill it out as if it was like a fucking checklist. I mean, I had my full address, full government name, phone numbers, all my family relatives linked up to me. It was just,
it's weird.
It's crazy. I mean, and I'm a fucking 13-year-old with all of my information on there. My email, I had 2 different email addresses. Just everything is posted on there publicly for everybody, not even just my friends.
And I
would be cringing and screaming at you if I did not do the exact same thing at that age. I would be, because I do it to like, I fence, and there are youngins in the fencing space, and I am always like on their shit to like be safe and not stupid, like not in a derogatory kind of way, but like, oh my God, child, please, like don't talk to adults on the internet.
Digital footprint.
Yeah, digital footprint. Like no 26-year-old is excited to talk to you just because they think you're cool. Shut up. Stop it. Like, but I also used to work with teenagers, so I am a bit more cynical about that kind of stuff than others. But
oh yeah, most definitely, you must be. It is bizarre though, thinking of how the tables have turned. I mean, even when I first started streaming, it was like I deactivated my Facebook. I did a Google search on my name to make sure, most of the stuff wasn't going to be brought up. And then, I don't know, it's like I was a lot more concerned starting streaming when I was 23 years old. And even though, like, really, I mean, I was probably safer than ever, especially when you consider what I used to do as a kid. And I mean, since then, I have fully deleted my Facebook because to be fair, like I had never really checked in the digital phase of my life, and I consider the digital phase of my life when I started streaming. That's when I just became like chronically online, as much as I hate to admit that. But it's like,
yeah,
we're
all there. Don't worry.
I never actually examined the footprints that I had on Facebook. I mean, the amount of degeneracy that is inevitably there in all of my posts. I was a fucking kid. I was like, I can't even imagine the stuff. I can imagine it because I remember the last time I looked at my Facebook Messenger when I was like 27 or something. I was like, you know what? For old time's sake, let's just go look at my Facebook messaging from 2009. Just like, let's look at all these messages. It's actually completely foreign to me. I can't even recognize the person that's sending the messages as my name. Like it's that bizarre when you think back. Like you feel like there's this nice consistency of your life that's like, oh, I've always been the same person. Like, dude, you look back half a lifetime ago and you're like, I do not recognize that person at all. Like you could totally fool me. It's wild. Yeah,
man, it's a product of that frontal lobe, and
it
like
really is
fully developed frontal lobe.
And
it changes you, man. Changes you.
You're a therapist, is that right, Oxie?
I am, yes. I know that was somebody asked a question kind of related to that, but yeah, that's my main job career that I do full time. I'm a therapist at a university. So unfortunately, between this show and like just existing in that space, my digital footprint it's there. It's not too much I can necessarily do about it. Which I suppose there is, but like it's
I feel
so
like
much
the
work.
older you get, though, it really doesn't become as much of a concern because most of the time, most people mature. When you're in your early 20s, that's when people are the most like deranged, I feel like, in the head when you're trying to figure out who you are. And so that's the most concerns. When you're in your 30s, entering your 30s, you're like, yeah, whatever anymore. I don't even care. Dox me, I dare you. It's just like, whatever. too lazy.
I got married at 23. That's so weird.
Bruh, you wildin'.
Okay, let me ask you this.
I knew that, but wow, you wildin'.
Now I'm actually, so was that like, this might be too personal. You can just let me know. Is that a religious thing to like get married so young? Because that's what it was.
I think it was. I just wanted to have sex.
Yeah, no, that's exactly, that's exactly where my little brother,
it was like lifting off this blanket of shame. I like, pun intended. I think it was kind of driven by being horny.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think I was way too young to get married.
Yeah, of course. But
we're surviving. Like we didn't have kids immediately, which was great.
Yeah.
We waited I think I was 29 in 2021, right? Is that right? Yeah. I turned 30 in 2022. So got married it was 23, so 2016.
Wow.
And then waited until 2021 to have a kid. So
yeah.
It would have been way different had we had kids sooner, I think. But we just kind of wanted to live life for a while.
That is so interesting because I bet because it's the same thing with me. Like all that, that was the way to have sex. You gotta get married first. Yeah. So I was like, yeah, that's not happening. I'm not adulting right now. I'm not I don't have my head screwed on straight. So getting into a marriage right now would actually just fucking, it would be such a mess. I mean, my sister and my brother-in-law were married, and that was when they were religious, and now they've since left religion, but they got married. So I mean, my brother-in-law was 20 and my sister was 19.
Bro, I would have got married at 18. I think I was I was, I was that horny. Like I met my wife in high school, and I was ready to like propose to her within a year. I think it was dumb, but like my parents and her parents were like, "You guys are not getting married. You can just we're shut that down right now."
That's funny. Wow, they were actually. Oh well, I guess it was even earlier, but yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Because we were kids.
Yeah,
Like
I know.
You mentioned
I know.
like being 23, like you just don't know who you are. So
You
I mean,
don't,
feel
and
like
there's no way of
yeah.
anybody convincing you of that either, because you actually think you are totally sane, completely like you have your frontal lobe fully formed. You're good to go. I'm never going to get any smarter or wiser than this. No,
And the best part is you're not listening to anybody when they're like, "Hey, maybe you're not thinking this all the way through." They're like, "Shut up, Grandpa. I know what I want."
Yep.
Bro, like I'm a completely different person. Like 7 years later.
Yeah.
9 years later. Damn. Okay.
Sorry about that.
You know, I've lived a completely. I feel like I've lived two lives when it comes to who I was in my 20s, in like early 20s, and then who I am now in my late 20s, early 30s. Feels like completely different lives, which is crazy. And I can see why, you know, people go through midlife crisis, because if you're just raw dogging life as an adult in like the 80s, 90s, thinking you have to be this person, and like especially our parents, they went through a lot of shit. You know, women taking care of the family, men going to work. There's this like obligation you feel, and like nobody goes to therapy because that's for the devil. I don't know. I look back and I'm like, I don't know how you made it, because I'm barely surviving, and I have all these tools.
Yeah.
I have all of these tools at my disposal. Like I can manage a bank account with my phone. I can order pizza on my phone. You know, like life is good.
Yeah, I mean
the essentials.
The internet itself, I mean, completely has revolutionized everything in like our day and age. It's just bizarre thinking. I mean, yeah, thinking back to thinking of how my dad grew up. I mean, he was born in 1967, I want to say. So it's like spending your childhood is the 1970s. That's so bizarre to me. Like, holy shit.
Right.
Into the 1980s. Like, that's so like, how do you live without the internet? That's the most bizarre thing. When you think of smart people from way back, I'm talking like smart people in like, I mean, pretty much as any time before the internet, really. But that took legit dedication. I mean, you had to go to school. You had to go to the fucking physical library and do the Dewey Decimal System.
Lot of reading.
Search up books. A lot of
reading.
Yeah, it's crazy. You can't just look it up and with a push of your finger.
I would be doomed. Like, it's hard for me to read because I don't know, ADHD. So I would be doomed if I had to go and physically read books to learn.
That's not like always true though, right? Like, I don't know if you would necessarily be doomed, but you might be doing something different, right? Like,
well, I use audiobooks and like the internet and YouTube videos as a crutch, I think. And so maybe if I was put in a situation where I can't just consume digital media, I would be fine. But if you shot me back into the past with who I am now, I would struggle.
I need to ask about ADHD. I'm sorry. This is also brought up in the Boon Babe cast, and my sister has basically fully convinced me that I've been undiagnosed ADHD since birth. And I'm actually going to see a doctor next year.
Nice.
You know, and try to get that all resolved. But my sister is fully convinced, because she's also convinced that my mom has ADHD. And of course, the religious thing, like you were saying, where therapy is of the devil or whatever, like that was the same thing, like medication or getting...
Medication is off the table.
Oh, probably. Yeah, completely. I mean, So she's convinced my mom has it, and it's very apparent when you actually look at the signs. And who knows what my dad has? I mean, he's never gone to therapy. He never will, and he'll just... You know,
if dads went to therapy, there would be no war. You know?
Amen, brother.
So were you diagnosed as a kid with ADHD?
No, this was within the last year.
Holy shit. Okay, I need to pick your brain on this. I'm sorry.
Go for it.
Have you, because for me, it feels like jumping into adulthood. This is something, again, this is me figuring this out with a lot of research I've been doing lately and just kind of realizing, oh shit, maybe this isn't just me being lazy, me being like, just me having insane struggles with learning and stuff. I mean, I feel like I masked it pretty well, and that's another line of research I've gone down just, in my own time of just seeing like a lot of kids can mask their ADHD and just appear like they're normal and they're doing fine, but it becomes such a mental toll using all of that energy to like mask it that eventually in adulthood it just leads to burnout, and you can't like function properly because of like how much your brain has to really use up energy to focus up and stuff. And so like college for me was fucking exhausting. It was so hard for me to actually just learn stuff, and I always saw it as I was just lazy. I was just like so lazy. I couldn't just sit down for 10 minutes and read my textbook. It was just like, it was so hard. I would be
slapping the shit out of you in my office right now. if I heard that, in my office.
I bet you've dealt with this so much. What would you say?
I deal with this probably every week, if not every day.
Holy shit.
So it's twofold, right? It's way more nuanced than like do I, don't I, if you have not been formally diagnosed. So if you don't have if you've not gone to a psychologist and taken an assessment, which are generally kind of long, like you'll know if you've taken an ADHD test. If you've not taken the assessment, scored high enough, gone through like the quote unquote interview, which is basically like an intake of like, let's listen to how you describe yourself. If you've not done any of that and you're like, I have ADHD, you might be right. But even if you're not, you can still find beneficial ways to work around it. The flip side to that is I always have to give the disclaimer to my clients that I'm not trying to be a quote unquote TikTok therapist or like a Pinterest therapist. Because a lot of the things that you see on social media, some of them are valid techniques, but some of them are only valid techniques for like certain situations, right? Like if I told Michael, like, you should lock in and read a book, that would be the most helpful thing for you to do right now. Would that do anything for you? Like, do you think you would complete that task? No, because you don't live a lifestyle that lends to that. It's not something you enjoy. So if someone sits in front of you through your phone and it's like, oh my God, you guys don't understand. You just need to read a book for 2 hours a day. I would rather die than read for 2 hours a day. I bought the new book. It's one of the RuneScape books, like Gift of Gothics. I was actually excited to go read it. I have not found the motivation to pick it up and like do anything with it. When I hear that kind of like, oh, I'm just so lazy rhetoric, I wait till the last minute for everything, my initial response is like, so what I'm hearing is you work well under pressure, which usually gets like a, what? And I go, well, yeah, you wait till the last minute for everything, right? And it's usually, well, yeah, I always wait till the last minute. I'm lazy. It's like, well, no, maybe you just need an external stimulus. The most effective external stimulus in college is a deadline. Assignments will take as long as you give them. So if you're sitting, if you say, oh, I have a week to do this assignment, it's going to take you the entire week. If you go, damn, I got 10 minutes to do this, bitch, you're going to get it done in 10 minutes, right? That pressure helps you do extraordinarily well. ADHD is not inherently this horrible crutch where like you are lazy, unmotivated, and incapable of doing anything. To me, it represents you have ADHD. You're adaptable. You have a lot of different hobbies. You can hold conversations with a lot of different people about a lot of different topics. You work extraordinarily well under pressure. And even though you can appear disorganized, you have a system down and you know what works for you. So that's like the initial counters when I hear it. I'm not your therapist and I'm not trying to be your therapist. But, well, we'll start charging you both then. But that's just what I hear as far as like, oh, I hate myself. I have ADHD. Like, yeah, sometimes it does get in the way of the things we want to do, but that doesn't make us like the worst people in the world,
I feel like it wasn't ever a matter. Oh, well, again, this is all kind of coming to light within this last year that I've even considered the possibility of having ADHD. I've always heard ADHD, and I'm like, that is just absolutely not me. I'm so chill. Like I'm introverted. I'm not hyperactive. Like I don't want to. Like I'm not hyperactive, so that's what I thought ADHD was. And there's
that's only half of it. That's
exactly
the HD, brother. You ain't talking nothing about the AD.
Yeah, and
Yes,
apparently
there is ADD, just
Yeah,
attention deficit.
No,
I think it's just
that's not a
ADHD
thing.
now, but
That's
it's
not a
not?
thing
Okay.
anymore. No, they canned that with the DSM-5 in when did that come out? 2013, I think. So ADD, you'll hear it from guys our age because, you know, when we were kids, that's what little boys had was ADD, not ADHD, because we kind of like distinguish them differently. But at this point, we don't do that anymore. And until the DSM-6 says otherwise, which I don't know if it will, ADD isn't really a thing. You're not going to go get diagnosed with ADD. You might have ADHD with a more like ironically, attention focused concern, if that makes sense. Like your issue with ADHD might be attention, whereas mine might be attention and hyperactivity, and Michael's might just be hyperactivity, right? Like it's just how it presents itself. And it looks different in adulthood, right? Like when I was a kid, I couldn't write papers. Now, mind you, I'm a spectacular writer. Michael can tell you, I write a lot of stuff for our bingos. I'm very good and very articulate when it comes to writing. It would take me probably 6 to 8 hours to write a 5-paragraph essay, which is just the most absurd. It's so absurd. 5 paragraphs is 30 minutes if I'm interested in what the topic is. But because I'm only kind of on a time limit, it's due tomorrow, but I still have time. I can work on it later. And I'm not interested in whatever the hell I'm writing about. These assignments would take me forever. It felt terrible because, like, I'm good at what I do. And then I would end up turning in some quote unquote bullshit assignment, get a 90 on it, and be like, okay, yippee, I don't have to do this again for another 2 weeks. And that was just my high school career, you know, but sometimes people present different ways, and then guys and girls present very differently. There's not a lot of like differences between the sexes in a lot of things, but when it comes to mental health, there can be pretty substantial differences, if that makes any sense, right? Like guys, little boys tend to have the HD, girls tend to have the AD, but girls do a significantly better job of masking it. And that looks like the overachiever. That looks like, oh my God, you're the smart girl in class. Everybody had a really smart girl in class that they went to school with. Sometimes that's the product of that AD issue, right? You have to overcompensate for something. But
yeah, so and that overcompensation leads to burnout later in life, I'm imagining, just like the amount of extra energy you have to put into that compared to everybody else.
Because you're constantly on an adrenaline spike, right? You're constantly at the whims of these people who you have put in this like authoritarian position of like their word is the law. If I don't get this assignment done, it's not going to go well. People are going to look at me funny. They're going to think I'm stupid. They're going to know that I'm stupid. I'm fooling everyone thinking that they think I'm smart, but I know that I'm not because I can never focus on this shit. But if I try really hard, I can trick them into thinking that I am, right? What do you think is going to happen when you graduate? God. What do you think is going to happen when you work a job where your boss is like, yeah, just get it to me by the end of the week, and it's Tuesday? You know, what happens when that stress goes away? You fucking crumble, right? Like you don't have anything to prop you up anymore because all of this stress and all of this self-inflicted, you know, demand for perfection is just gone. And you're like, oh shit, now what? Because you never learned how to take a break and now you're forced to, and it feels really, really bad. So you guys ever seen the it's like a quote from Albert Einstein, right? We judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, and the fish grows up thinking it's stupid.
Yep.
Right? Because that's the problem with the American school system is you're judged based on criteria set by other people who are not you, who do not know your specific skill set. I see it when I worked with teenagers. I saw it all the time. I would have kids struggle with any subject across the board. You name it. They couldn't do science. They couldn't do history. They had really poor writing ability. They weren't like, it seemed like they weren't literate, but they could sit in my office and explain to me how to take apart 8 different models of ATVs. They could sit in my office and tell me the difference between the kinds of paint you have to use for different styles of housing, because that's what they grew up learning about. And that's what they're extremely talented in. And that's what they kind of have a passion for. But when you sit them down and you're like, all right, when was the Treaty of Versailles signed? And you're like, what the fuck? What am I supposed to? That's not going to help me at all, right? Sometimes school is not the most conducive place for that. And that's why we see it a lot with young kids in school. So I kind of always, I've met a couple of adults in my life who are like, ADHD, do I, don't I? Whether you do or don't, you've learned what works for you. If something is working for you, stick with it, because there's probably a reason that it's working. If it doesn't work for you, find ways to change it. Whether that be talking to a therapist who's not on a podcast with you, or
paying
looking up
the therapist that's on the podcast, right?
Well, you can't actually, because you are not within the state of Michigan. And as a partially licensed counselor for the next couple, I should get my full license here very soon.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, the licensure is just like, I graduated 2.5 years ago, so you need to have years and hours as a limited license before you get your full license. But so that's I still have the background for it, just not the street cred with the letters yet. But in any case, you're not in the state of Michigan, so it is not legal for you to pay me for counseling services.
I want to actually ask you this. This is something I feel like I want to pick the brain of a therapist, but it's like, if I was ever in that situation, I would just be too embarrassed to ask, I feel like. But like, do therapists, I'm imagining therapists probably have some sort of imposter syndrome, but also I want to ask you this, like, do you feel like what you learn to become a therapist, like how you treat your clients or your patients, I should say, it's not clients, it's definitely patients, but
it's actually clients. Patients.
Really?
Yeah.
Because it's not actually,
if I were in like a mental health hospital, it would be patients, right? Because you are directly in my care like 24/7.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, you're not paying me because I don't charge insurance where I work. I have a salary, but like, you are paying me for a service, right? I am trying to provide you the best service possible. You are a client of mine. Like, you are, like I'm building you a deck or something like that. Just the deck is your mental well-being in this case, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's just how I look at it. I think sometimes patient gets like, oh God, I'm his patient, I'm crazy. Like, oh my God, no.
I guess what I'm curious of is like getting to the point where you're at, where you are going to be certified and everything or whatever. Like, do you feel like that process has basically been therapy for you, knowing how you are going to treat your client, like knowing what you have to do with your clients? Like, I feel like becoming a therapist is almost therapy, but I have no idea if that's actually the case. Or does therapy have to be with somebody else, and that's what really is the therapy, is like having somebody else be there and addressing it, and it can't be a self-help thing?
So it can be self-help, right? But it's kind of like the issue with medical problems, right? You ever put a Band-Aid on?
Yes.
I imagine you could put a Band-Aid on pretty well. Have you ever gone as far as to put some Neosporin or maybe some disinfectant on yourself?
My mom did, yeah.
So your mom did that, but like, as a nearly 30-year-old man, if I handed you some disinfectant, you would know what to do with it, right?
Yeah. Would I do it, or would I just put the Band-Aid on? I'd probably just put the Band-Aid on. I'm a guy.
You ever applied a tourniquet when you got a bone sticking out of you? No?
No.
Why not? Because you don't know how to do that, and that's pretty hard to do by yourself when you're in that kind of pain, right? Sometimes you can do it by yourself, and that's fine. A lot of people do some of it on their own, but sometimes it's more helpful for someone to walk over and be like, hey, do you want me to stitch you up a bit, brother? You know, that's kind of how I look at it. I couldn't actually graduate until I went to therapy myself. Like part of
Really?
my degree requirement was to go see a therapist for like 5 or 6 sessions and like actually talk about issues, in addition to all of the faculty in my program being veteran therapists.
Wow.
So like you can't show up to class on a bad day, hide in the back and hope that nobody brings you to anybody's attention. It's like you're having a bad day, you're crying in the corner. It's not going to become like a topic of class, but it's not going to go unnoticed, right? It's going to be not a thing, obviously. No one's going to single you out, but it's very hard to get through a graduate program for counseling, psychology, social work, psychiatry without doing a lot of legitimate reflection and getting legitimate help, because you can potentially run into the issue of what's called counter transference in therapy, where my parents got divorced when I was in college, right? If I did absolutely no work on that and you sent, 2016-year-old me, 2016 brain me with no work, no processing on that, I give a very different tone when talking about divorced parents, right?
Mm.
I give a very different tone of the experience of what it's like to have, as an adult jumping from house to house on holidays. Um, and that's dangerous for people sometimes, right? Because if you have an unprocessed issue, you know, you can accidentally give advice or give pieces of what you think is therapy that are actually super harmful. So the goal is to not do any of that. So that's, yeah. I don't know if I'm
Interesting.
sounding too high and mighty about
No,
any
no,
of that, but it's a longer process than just like show up, get the degree, suddenly you can do therapy with folks. It's yeah.
yeah. No, that's cool. So Michael, you've been very patient with our discussions of this.
Sorry, Michael. I
I was
didn't shut
contemplating.
the hell up
No,
there, brother.
you
I was
guys have just
contemplating
been
if I could go kill a sporty.
yeah, no, you guys obviously have podcasted together plenty, so I feel like you guys are in your natural elements already right now, so that's good.
Yeah.
There actually is an extension to this whole therapy question that is actually asked by Pommy Dang on Twitter, and so this is a question for Oxie. How does being a therapist help you in dealing with quarrels inside the clan? And why is there always drama in every OSRS community? Drama is just essential. That's just essential to human nature, I feel like. Well, I'll answer that for you, but yeah, you can answer.
I was kind of thinking about that earlier on my way home from work, because I've read some of the other Twitter replies. I'm sure we'll get to those. They're fun for me. I As far as like drama in the RuneScape community goes, there's drama in every community that you're a part of, right? Like some things that have happened in 2024 shouldn't happen ever, right? Like we've had some fucked up instances if you're just on RuneScape Twitter, right? But a lot of what's happened over the last couple of years that's, drama within the RuneScape community isn't necessarily unique to RuneScape. It just has RuneScape creators or RuneScape Twitter personalities attached to it. And that's just how people be, I don't know what to say about that. Some issues are probably better left not on social media. I can think of a few off the top of my head that probably end differently or better for people, if not on the world stage that is OSRS Twitter.
Is there anything that's good? Like, let's just ask that one. Is there any time it is appropriate and helpful to spew your stuff on OSRS Twitter?
When Hanani came forward and said, "Hey, I'm gonna kill myself, but I didn't. Do we want to have some fun with that?" That was extraordinarily helpful. Because it takes a lot to be vulnerable like that when you are already part of I guess we'll word it as like an intersectional community. When you already have that in front of you, I'm sure that word pissed somebody off in the comments. I apologize. When you have that and you come forward and you say, "Hey, this is bothering me. I was close, but I didn't." The community rallies behind that, and it helps people have empathy for either that person or that group or that cause. Maybe they text their friends. They're like, "Hey, I just fucked around on a RuneScape server with 1,000 times XP multiplier because, some girl was suicidal. Are you doing okay?" Like, that shit can make the difference in someone's life. So that was good. But at the same time, when it's good, it's not really drama, is it?
Yeah.
Like, there's no good thing that is tea, if that makes sense. As far as like handling things in the RuneScape clan, I'm not your therapist. I'm not working with teenagers. Y'all are a bunch of late 20s, early 30-year-old men, mostly. There's like 5 women that hang out in the Discord. There's more than that. I'm exaggerating, but I don't know. As far as like Michael can honestly probably tell you better how I handle it.
I'm Oxie's therapist when that stuff comes up. So
there are sometimes where I'm like, all right, they fucked around, now they're gonna find out. I'm gonna burn this whole place to the ground. And Michael's like, all right, whoa.
I think it helps that he's not doing it alone. We
ain't that the truth?
As community leaders, him and I, it like that dynamic has changed a bit in the last couple of months, where it was like a small team of 4 or 5 of us in the beginning, and our Discord has grown, and we've transitioned now to where we have I think we have over 2,500 members. Wow. Not all active, but I can look right now. It shows how many are online, but there's probably 700 to 900 people active. And
at
so now
any given time of day.
Goddamn.
Yeah. Our mod team has grown now to probably over 30 people in different capacities. Like, we have chat mods, and then there's like Oxie, myself, and our friend TMD. We're like the head mods. So it like the responsibility is spread out a bit, and it's taken some like definite learning to get to where we are now with like managing a community of so many different people. Because I think that's kind of the answer to the question, is like, why is there always drama? Well, like, we're all human beings, and when you have so many different people with their individual experiences all crammed into one room, like, it's kind of just what happens. Not everybody is going to agree. Not everybody is going to have the same mindset. Not everyone is going to interact the same way that you do. And so there will be conflict, but that's kind of just normal. And I think that we do our best to just foster a community where people feel welcomed and people feel like they can be themselves. But we can't help it if somebody just gets emotional, or we don't have anybody ever really just go off and spout slurs, but people get emotional, people get upset, and that's normal. I would be kind of concerned and weirded out if we had a drama-free community. If anybody has a drama-free community, because then is your community really active at that point? Can you really look at them and say yeah, I have an active community if nothing bad ever happens?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's so how long have you guys been running that clan?
So we started TNL as a small group of friends who were just doing raids and different content together back in 2020. So when Oxie and I met, and then when the podcast happened, we were I think 5 months into the podcast, and we were talking about do we start our own Discord? What do we do here? Because there are people who were joining TNL because at that point Oxie and I were still kind of streaming on the side, and both of our link trees linked, like the Discord that we linked was TNL. And so anytime somebody joined, like listened to the show, they're like, "Hey, what's you guys hang out in Discord? What's that Discord?" We would just send them the TNL link, Team No Life. And so when we were kind of conceptualizing what it would be like to have a Discord of our own, we came to the conclusion that like, let's just integrate into TNL. And so we've been doing it for a long time. It's going on, I think we just hit 4 years of having TNL.
Nice.
As a community.
Yeah. It kind of came down to, I remember we were sitting in VC one night. I know we've told the story before, but like, I think I pretty much told Michael, I'm like, dude, I don't want to hang out somewhere else because like this is my home. Like I am going to have a Discord and then like awkwardly pop in and say hi to people, but like TNL is one of the few places that I actually feel comfortable talking with strangers, because despite being confident in like the content creation space, when like it is essentially my domain, when it comes, or at the time rather, when it came to like meeting new people, I wasn't always super confident. It was like pulling teeth to get me in VC sometimes. So to be slapped in a new Discord that I didn't know, that I was also in charge of, and also the worst thing in the world, the center of attention, or at least I perceived I would be, that sounded like a terrible idea. And I was not a huge fan of that. And I'm like, I would just rather be comfortable in TNL, you know, like just build a bigger backyard and have people come hang out there rather than have to, you know, buy a whole new house type deal. But
okay, here's a question for Michael. In how many and which categories would you divide the overall player base of our beloved game? Have you done this before? Sorry?
Who is that on? Was that on Twitter?
Yeah, this is Palmy. The same.
Palmy
asking a question for you, Michael.
Oh, it's the same person. Okay,
yeah.
But I thought about it because I read this question ahead of time, and I feel like there's a lot. So you have, because he asked specifically like how many different communities or categories there are. Like,
yeah,
you have the casual players, you have the sweaty players.
And the sweaties have multiple subcategories.
There's different levels of sweat. And there's different levels of casual too. So like each of these have subcategories involved too. So it's not just like an overarching, or it's not like one size fits all. You may be casual and only play on the weekends. You may only play during a limited time event like Deadman Mode or leagues. There's I would call the Iron Man, like the overarching Iron Man as a separate community. There's snowflakes within that kind of sub branch, I guess. There's so many.
Yeah, there's
so many
never
different communities.
Snowflakes that are main accounts. It feels like it feels like it always stems from the Iron
Which is
Man.
It's unfortunate, really, because like you can't, like with the nature of the game modes that they try and do, it generally is seen as, well, you can so easily cheat that you can't play a main. Like you can't be locked to an area and then have any sort of notable achievements because you could be like, well, I mean, I didn't see if you traded somebody that item that you said you got. So like, how do we know it's real? Well, Iron Man solves that. So
didn't Framed do that exact thing though? Like, wasn't that his thing years ago?
Bronze Man, was that the one where he was a main account, but he got his.
He was
upgrades.
Region locked, and he had to like get PvP related upgrades to move on to the next regions.
You are right. There are main snowflakes, and those are always the PvP related ones because you have to be a main.
It's like you can't use it until you either get it as a drop or kill another player with it, which like is an interesting concept. But
there are so many categories. I feel like I'm a little bit more simplistic. I don't even like gauge it from the casual or the sweats. It's just like we got the skillers. We got and again, this is I guess this is the way I see it because I'm so jaded. I feel like I'm loosening that grip with the like more high level community. It's just like that's all I see online, you know. It's like mostly that. I guess Reddit gives me a little bit of a balance with the more casual experience, but it's always like the skillers, the PvPers, we do got the role players, you know. We got the role players, and then we got like the PVMers that are just crazy. But again, that's all in the sweat category. You got the casuals, and that's a whole different story, I feel like. But yeah.
I feel like I'm a very casual sweat.
Yeah, so you just like, you're a casual, but you just don't shower, right? Like that. We got that category too. No, okay.
Sure. Like I love this game.
We call that leagues, baby.
I play way too
much,
but I'm not good.
Wait, are you guys both playing leagues right now?
Yeah, I'm killing rune dragons for my dragon limbs on my ranger. Yeah, I'm 68 killed so far.
Nice.
Since we've been recording.
Hell
I've been trying to get 63 fletching on league so I can make ruby bolts.
That's got to take what, like 45 seconds to get to that level?
No, I've actually been doing this whole time. Actually, really, I started out at like 42. What are you doing? I'm cutting logs and fletching them.
Are you just actually?
Are you making them into arrow shafts?
No.
Just brother. Longbows or what?
Longbows and dropping them.
You got Slayer Relic, right?
Yeah.
Make them into arrow shafts. Get to 52, and then spend your entire cash stack on broad arrowheads. It's like a
wait. Do you need broader fletching
drop? You do, but with Slayer Relic, it's free.
Oh shit!
So buy broader fletching or unlock broader fletching. I went from I think I got like 27 to 52. It took me like an hour doing like oak to willow to maple arrows or whatever, like arrow unheaded. Headless whatever arrows. They are. Sure, that's the word. From 52 to 69 to make my RCB was probably 8 minutes. So
damn. Had I thought about that sooner, I could have been doing other things.
You can still take advantage of it. You know, you still need
he's playing for the enjoyment, not the efficiency, right, Michael?
I'm almost 60
here.
Yeah. And I have like 800 U logs in my bank that I don't know what I'm going to do with, so I guess I could fire make those.
Well, you know what? To each their own, I guess.
Hey, I'm over here not even playing leagues. I'm just barbarian fishing on my new Iron Man. So, you know.
Can we get into that? Why are you not playing leagues?
I have tried. So Leagues 1 came by, loved watching it. Leagues 2, I never tried it. Leagues 2 came by, I also resisted. And back then, I was just so hyper focused on my main Iron. I just wanted to keep progressing it. But then I was like, you know what? Leagues 3, I'm going to give this a real go. And I'm even going to make a YouTube series on it.
Shattered Relics?
No.
And I know. So I start and I'm playing 14 hours a day for 3 days straight. And I even made YouTube videos on it. So not only was I playing 14 hours, but I was also like afterward, like making the daily uploads for 3 days straight. And I was like, I am genuinely just like, I was having a good time kind of because there was just so much like stimulation, I guess, initially. And by the end of day 3, I'm like, I am not having a good time anymore. And part of it is like the content creation angle that I'm taking on this, where I'm not normally just like a dedicated YouTuber. So this is just extremely stressful for me. And on top of it, I was like, where am I going with this? Like, what? It's just like everything I'm doing right now is just, I don't know, feels pointless. Like it just, I didn't see the long-term vision. And anyway, I just burnt out. And then Leagues, and everyone's like, oh, Leagues 3 sucked, man. I'm like, really? Like, okay, I'll give it one more shot anyway. So I tried Leagues 4, played for like an hour, and I just just like the whole time I'm in my head thinking, okay, oh my God, did you just send this picture? I need to, this is peak Fashionscape right now.
Just Leagues things. Powdered wig.
Can you please just wear that boots. The rest of the league? Just never take it off.
It's my Fashionscape.
Jesus Christ.
People awesome. Just run around looking like that all the time because everyone gets cape?
It's the one of the team capes. It's my max cape, bro. Look.
It looks so short. Like it looks like it's only going to your knees.
Oops. It's not a max cape, but it's one of the team capes.
Let's go a little bit further. Yeah, but I tried Leagues 4, gave it like, I don't know, an hour or so, and I just like was so in my head about it. I'm like, everything I'm doing right now, first of all, it's extremely stressful because I consider it ADHD man mode. I've been saying that for a while now. Leagues is just ADHD man mode. You just have this massive chore list. Like, here's all the chores you should do, and you got to run around like an ant doing it. It's just like it does not hit the fun factor for me.
I think that is my least favorite thing about leagues is the task system, because like it's a necessary evil in my mind, because you have to have some way to progress, to unlock the different tiers of relics and to make it a meaningful progression. But I just have so much decision paralysis that I see this long list of tasks and I just don't know where to start sometimes. So the last league was Leagues 4 was the first time that I really truly put time and effort into a league, because the first 3 I was trying to max. And so the first one, Twisted League, I picked the prayer relic and not the stamina relic, and I just quit because if you don't have infinite run, leagues is not fun.
Yeah.
So
Walker
I
gang,
picked the prayer. I was Walker gang, bro.
God.
So I quit, and then leagues 2 and 3, I was trying to max my main, and any progression that I got within the league just felt like a massive waste of time. And so Trailblazer 2 was the first time I was ever like no commitment in the main game, and I felt like I could really give this my all. But the only way that I got through it was like having Double Shine's like step-by-step guide on how to get your first however many points. Because for me, I needed somebody to hold my hand and tell me exactly how, in the most efficient way, to do all the tasks, so that I could get the boring stuff out of the way, so that I could have like my account, which feels like a god. Because the relics, once you get into, I would say, the mid game of leagues, like once you get your teleport relics and you get your production relics, and like I had Banker's Note last league, I felt like a god, bro. Like thousands of Karambwans in my inventory, and I could access them at any point, and I could make entire inventories of cut gems in a single tick. And the dopamine rush that you get from a league, if you can make it past the early game slog, it's unlike anything else I've ever experienced in a video game. So that's my take on leagues. I love leagues.
Yeah.
I'm feeling it a little more like it's a slog now, even when I am in the mid game, just because I think they've changed up the way that you progress through this league. It's a little bit slower. You don't have as many OP abilities within the relics. Like, they are OP. Yeah, so like last league, you had last recall.
Yeah.
As a free thing. Like, you didn't have to pick a tier for it.
Oh, is that not a given right now on this league?
It's not. It's a choice. So you can either pick the Banker's Note, which allows you to note or unnote anything in your inventory, or you can take the last recall.
Why did they?
So it's
why
one of
did
the
they make that a
choices.
choice? I feel like everybody loved Last Recall, and it was almost, it felt like a run thing, like just always having to run.
Honestly, I think it's just to make it interesting and give you like meaningful choices. Like, you can't. It was fairly overpowered. I mean, it had been in the game. It had been in the game mode for the last two leagues in a row, and so it to me it just feels like it's a way to switch it up. Like, they may bring it back in a future league where you get it for free, but it became a thing where I think that people were expecting it and like having predetermined metas around it, that they needed to kind of shake things up and be like, well, no, you don't just get it. You have to choose between these two OP things.
And frankly, I think that's way more interesting the way they did it.
Definitely.
It's interesting
way
gameplay.
more fun.
I guess I hadn't played it. I just saw it as a run thing where like, just give it to everybody because everyone enjoys it. But that doesn't make sense. It's not actually probably as essential as run.
Oh, so the issue the first time, right? So it originated in the original Trailblazer League, Leagues 2, where the options were like, it was like unlimited jewelry and like a teleport book with all the jewelry stuff in it. Fairy's Flight, which was just any fairy ring in the game, which was terrible at the time. Or Last Recall, which was like, hey, teleport where you were, which doesn't sound super useful until you bring that bitch to God Wars, until you bring it to Zulrah, until you bring it to Vorkath, and you never run out of food. You never run out of supplies. You get the dog shit beat out of you by Bandos. You teleport home. You sip your pool. You eat some Kromboins. You go right back. You don't need to get kill count. You don't need to go through all the wolves or the teleporting or all the other finding the hammer and all that. You're just there at the door.
That's crazy.
And the convenience that it opened up in leagues too, it very quickly became quote unquote the correct choice. And when people didn't pick it and realized how good it was, wow, does that feel bad? And they ran into the same issue in Leagues 3, but instead they're like, you know what? We're not going to leave an option for a bad choice on the table. Everybody gets last recall with our relic combinations. It turns out the relic combinations were not intuitive and the interface was a nightmare, and that's the biggest gripe, I think, with Leagues 3.
Yeah.
But it did appear there, technically. And then Leagues 4, they said, you know what? Everybody gets last recall. They also introduced Banker's Note. They put Banker's Note up against Fire Sale. Fire Sale, every single shop was free. All the items you bought were noted. So, like, are you a level 3 account who wants to go buy an Onyx from the Tazar shop? Sure, go ahead and do that. Go ahead and buy 20 million cooked Karambwans from Karamja. You never need food for the rest of the league. Stuff like that with Fire Sale.
Mm-hmm.
But it also had Banker's Note, which was note and unnote items from anywhere in the world, including in instances. So in the early game, Fire Sale skyrocketed people for points. Fire Sale was great. Banker's Note was the long game. Banker's Note was 1,000 Karambwans at Theater of Blood, 1,000 brews in the Inferno, 1,000 prayer pots on a Slayer task. You just never leave.
Yep.
Right? And it kind of became obvious that towards the later game, Banker's Note was the quote unquote correct choice. So this time they said, you know what? Fuck you guys. Here's 2 correct choices. And they buffed last recall so that now it remembers your stats. Like, it saves your character in that moment. So if you stand outside the Zulrah room with 126 HP and full prayer or whatever, I don't know if it saves your boosted stats or not, but if it does, that's cool. You kill Zulrah, you're venomed, you got the shit beat out of you. You just total recall back, bam, you are on the dock with full health ready to go.
Sexy.
So it works for like wilderness bosses too. So like if you're killing Venenatis and Venenatis beats you within an inch of your life, you just total recall a couple tiles away from her and you just get right back in the fight.
Would you say this is the most balanced league there is when it comes to choicing? Like
choicing
you have?
Yes, as far as the relics are concerned, I think yes. The only one that's not balanced and is still just objectively bad is Equilibrium. Jagex, man, stop putting Equilibrium in the game or make it better.
What is that one?
Equilibrium provides 10% additional XP to the skill that you are training, or 20% XP if it's your lowest skill. That is not what the name Equilibrium seems like. The name
10%
Equilibrium,
of your total level.
10% of your what? It's 10% of your it's somehow even worse.
No, so if you're 1,500 total, you get 150 extra XP.
For every action or what?
For every action that you do
for that every action. Huh. People say it's like the maxing relic or it's the 200 mil all relic, which yeah, it does save a little bit of time, but what
is it compared to? Yeah, what is it stacked up with, like against?
So tier 4 was Equilibrium, then Golden God, which, let me pull the relic interface up here. It said all alchemy spells do not require a rune cost. Items give 15% extra GP and have a 65% chance to not be consumed. And then when it's cast on a stack of items, it will automatically be recast over time and cannot be interrupted by things like combat. So you would go into the fight caves with 200 dragon longswords, high alch them the entire time, and let it be good. Money is only so useful for an Iron Man, so they said, hey, every 20,000 coins, you can offer it at a prayer altar in exchange for prayer XP equivalent to using a dragon bone. which
Wow.
respects
scales
XP
with the
multipliers.
yeah, it
Okay.
scales with the XP
Scales with the
multiplier.
XP and prayers a combat skill, so it's double your XP multiplier, and it respects like the wilderness or the ectophontus or the lit gilded altar. Yeah,
Those
and it also
percentage
allows
bonuses too.
things bought to be noted, if you would like. So it's the money solve. Like you never have to worry about money. And then the other one was Reloaded, where they allowed you to choose a relic from tiers 1 through 3 again.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah.
They're actually going pretty. You know what? One of the things that actually impresses me so much about leagues is how few bugs there are. Like coming out with something like this, I would imagine a game mode like this just being absolutely filled to the brim with just unnecessary or just unforeseen bugs everywhere because of just the game being so just introduced with just not even introduced, jam packed with so many crazy things, and yet somehow it functions. Like I'm actually so impressed by Jagex being able to pull off something like this.
Absolutely.
I mean, with
it does.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry, what were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, it is quite impressive.
Yeah.
This year, they get better and better every year. We kind of stop and say like, there's no way they top themselves next time, right? And we've been saying that for a long time. They didn't with Leagues 3 versus Leagues 2, but they sure as hell did in Leagues 4, and they sure as hell did in Leagues 5.
So Leagues 5 is
And
better than Leagues 4, you would say? Like this one's the best?
in a lot of ways, I think. I don't know if it's. We've only been playing for a week, right? I don't know if it's objectively better, but I think it's far more interesting. I think the combat mastery system is more interesting. I think the progression feels a little bit better. Like the progression feels a little bit more meaningful. Where like it's not like, okay, you're tier 3, here's your melee relic. You're now a demigod with melee. Oops, you chose Kandarin, Desert, and Tiranwin. Have fun with a shitty like melee loadout. Instead, with the new mastery system, it allows you to like pick and choose, and like there's no really like like we've been trying to theory craft the worst region combination with like the worst mastery combination. And like the worst way to do it is just to not pick regions and masteries. Like that is how in my opinion, well balanced it is. Like they've nerfed Kandarin to shit versus last year. But it's good. It's diversified the meta. Everyone who wants to enjoy Mage is no longer obligated to go Kandarin if you don't want to. So
now,
have you seen any of the Echo bosses? Are you familiar with what those are?
Yeah, I've seen them. I'm not fully familiar. I mean, I'm just imagining every single boss has an Echo version of it.
All the major ones do, and there's different mechanics.
Yeah,
they can do crazy things.
And what does it do? Does it buff the drops?
It gives you a specific item that is only available from that Echo boss. So for instance,
only exists in the league.
Just the league's item. So like Calfight Queen, that Echo boss drops what's called the Drygore Blowpipe. It's basically a blowpipe that has the same effect as the Fang does, where it double rolls accuracy and takes the higher.
Oh my god!
But it's a blowpipe that you get from the desert. Crazy.
So that's the way they really are able to balance the areas, at least with PVM. Is like they've actually been able to hand pick or like handcraft these new weapons and stuff that make it.
It's been everything. It's been like
amazing.
In Tiranwin, the blessing gives the crystal bonus, like for the Bofa. It gives the bonus to melee weapons, but any melee weapon. Blade of Saldor, Inquisitor's Mace, Scythe of Vitor. It gives that 30% accuracy, 15% damage. Mauritania, the gloves double the effect of Barrow sets and act as an amulet of the damned. So the max hit with Darox is like 194 or some crazy shit like that. When you're at like 1 HP or something. The Hespori one is okay. The one for Asgarnia, they said it's called the dog sword, and they combined all of the 5 god swords together into one. And it does all 5 of the god sword special attacks at the same time.
Oh my god, are you serious?
You get it from Cerberus.
You get the healing, you get the freezing, you get the defense reduction, you get the blood barrage, and you get the increased accuracy from the AGS. It's
one spec.
Does it also like have a 5x double accuracy thing where like it keeps multiplying that accuracy? Or is it just a double accuracy that didn't get multiplied 5 times?
It might just be double accuracy. I didn't go Asgarnia, so I couldn't tell.
But you're already so overpowered anyway. It doesn't even matter.
It's truly ridiculous. So, and the way they have made some of these boss fights, oh my god! I have only done the Echo Hespori fight. I did that bitch like 30 times in a row because it's just fun, dude. It's just fun to take these.
You got extremely dry. You had to go to the pity rate, didn't you?
I think I did go to the pity rate for that sniper rifle. It felt really bad. And then turns out the Hespori or the Nature's Reprisal doesn't even feel that good on your off style.
Yeah, the item from Hespori is basically like the same mechanics as a salamander, so you can melee from a distance.
Oh my god.
So you can take all the super buff melee masteries, go in with full Torva and an Infernal Cape and kill Zuck with technically melee damage.
So are all the Echo fights unique? Do they all kind of have a similar sort of feel to it where it's like, okay,
no.
Oh, really?
They're all unique.
Wow.
Like all of the Echo boss fights have like, I wouldn't say they all have unique mechanics, but they're unique fights. Mm-hmm. They're not like a standardized, this is the because they take the concept from the original fight. Like, I'm gonna give you spoilers for the Hespori. Some people love to go into these fights blind, so I'm gonna spoil the Hespori fight real quick. When you're fighting Hespori, instead of just 4 flowers, it'll pop up like 10 different flowers, and then the flowers have prayer mechanics to where you have to kill some with melee, and you have to kill some with range or mage. And so while you're doing that, while you're trying to get all of these flowers killed, Hespori shoots out this bomb that will cover an entire like quarter of the playfield. And if you're stuck there, it's like an instant 35 damage. And she's also changing styles that hit like a truck. I think if you're off, like if you don't have your Prey Mage, at least for me, if I don't have Prey Mage up, I'm getting hit like a 45. So you really have to like figure out where you're standing, change your prayers accordingly. You can't just tank the mage hit. And then every so often you have to go all the way around the room and destroy all the flowers while you're still trying to fight Hespori. Arguably, it's probably one of the easiest ones out there from what I've heard, just because like it's Hespori, how hard can it be? But the fight itself is very interesting when you think about how easy the mechanics of like killing Hespori in the main game is. So it's really cool how they got to like play around with just like crazy things that you wouldn't think of.
This is what excites me, is that they're given so much freedom to explore these new boss mechanics and stuff. I feel like, I mean, the fact that there's like how many Echo boss fights to do in leagues, like there's got to be tons of them.
10?
There's 9? One for each region, so it's
they literally came out with like 10 brand new fights, kind of, and you guys are saying they're some of the most fun things. Do you see that? Like, what if they were to have added what the Hespori Echo fight is as Hespori in the main game originally? Like, would that have been a good thing? Obviously, they have to scale it back a bit.
We spoke about this with Double Shine a little bit, and our kind of like tinfoil hat theory is like this is the way that they introduce like hard mode variants of old bosses. Like, I don't know if you've done, Michael, do you want spoilers for the KBD Echo fight?
I've definitely seen Foe fight that one.
So the KBD Echo fight, for example, KBD is boring as shit to kill. You don't do it. You stand there and you take damage and you kill the boss, right? But now it shoots like blasts of things on the floor. There are other dragons that you have to manage at the exact same time. It just makes it way more fun, and it's a fresh look on a lot of these, particularly old bosses. DKs, Calphite Queen, King Black Dragon, Thermi, Cerberus, the stuff that's like either early RuneScape or early old school. I think the only exception is like Hespori and Soul Heredit are the only like newer bosses. That and like the Soul Fight, almost it's like no different.
I was gonna say Soul Fight's already incredible. It's so well crafted.
Yeah.
I thought the Soul Fight was good. Like the phalanxes were gonna like step inwards, and you were gonna have like the arena was gonna get smaller and smaller. But from the little clip I saw on Twitter, doesn't look like there's much different about it. Like he has one different dust pattern with the shield smash. But I don't know the Soul Fight well enough to know what's also wrong with it because I don't have a quiver. But no, it's been a lot of fun, right? I don't know. I don't think some of these echo bosses would have been fun to implement off the rip. I think a farming boss that has a here's like a 50 for fun attack, that feels kind of bad. You're trying to get farming XP and not get the shit beat out of you. But these could maybe make their way into the main game.
I think it's a soft launch, honestly, because, and this is the tinfoil hat theory, that if they wanted to add a little spice and give players who want more out of this game, they want to give them more, it makes sense to just like make variants of the same fights instead of like just always having to make new things, just make old things harder. Give Thermi and Kraken something to do, you know, and then give people the reward of doing it, something a little bit better, like we have with the Awakened bosses. I mean, they've already done it, right? As I say that, the Awakened bosses are what this concept is. You need a special orb. You get to fight it once, and it's got different mechanics, and it's harder, and it rewards you with something. They could have Awakened versions of almost any boss in the game, and it be something that I think the community could get behind and have a lot of fun with.
I genuinely think the only issue with adding them to the main game is what the hell do you give people as a reward? You know, like the Echo DKs, super fun. They're automatically off-ticked. They all attack you with their style at the exact same time. They hit harder. There's always poison filling the room, kind of like Zarpus from the Spinal Lips. But they give you a ring and a necklace that give a combined like plus 60 accuracy to all styles, plus 15 magic damage, plus 15 melee strength and range strength. Like it's just objectively so much more powerful than what we already have in the game, that like you can't bring that into the main game without totally just like fuck the Rancor, fuck the Ultor. Take these things from the new Dagannoth Kings. It doesn't feel as good, right?
Yeah.
Like that'd be my only question about the Awakened or Echo bosses in the main game. How do you reward players for that kind of work?
Yeah.
You know, how do you reward players
that's
trying to do this when you're not a demigod, like just regular RuneScape that does not just completely derail what RuneScape is, unless you do like an Echo Torva or something, you know, like it would need to be like a Blood Torva Sang kit kind of cosmetic, I think, to show that you could do it, but you don't really get anything else from it.
They could do increased drop rates. Like it's a harder fight, so we're going to make the drop rate a bit better. Is that not enough?
Yeah, they can always do. I feel like it's always best to make like the uniques more common rather than like the generic loot more common. And then, of course, cosmetics are always the most balanced way because it actually just has no effect on the economy. It's only for the flex. True. But yeah, you're right. It could go either way. It does feel like Jagex cares a lot more about the PVM aspect of the game. And even though we have seen amazing skilling methods be brought into the game to add variety, it feels like skilling never gets quite the treatment that PVM does. Like when you see over the years just how much more fun PVM has become and how still tedious and obnoxious so much of skilling is, like I don't know. I wish they could kind of do the same thing they've been doing with PVM for years and translate that over to skilling somehow. And I know that's obviously a big ask because skilling is at least in my opinion. It's like you got the casual skillers that really, not only have they internalized this idea that skilling needs to be something you full AFK. It's just like, no, skilling is something that's done at work. I'm going to be logged into my mobile and I'm never going to actually interact with this. In fact, the thought of interacting with skilling just makes me want to barf. But it's like, but then with PVM, it's like, no, everything is like completely centered on fun and dopamine rush and everything like that. Like, do you guys feel like we could have the same sort of thing with skilling in the future? I mean, obviously it's going to take time and obviously a change of mentality with the player base. But do you guys ever think that skilling could be in a way better position than it is?
I think so. I know
I could get a
Michael
long
and I,
rant. Oh my gosh.
Michael and I will fight like you name it. We'll fight like cats and dogs, brothers, married couple. We'll fight like anything about like skilling XP rates, for example. But I think I'm just going to be frank. PVM is more fun. PVM has you engage in ways that are, in general, more like interesting for a video game and are also more rewarding, right? There's always a chance you get the big drop. Why do we raid? We don't raid because the mechanics of the Theater of Blood are so intricate. No, it's because we want the purple. We want to get the scythe, right?
Yeah.
Like, we want that big dopamine rush, like you said. And I think it's hard to do that with skilling. I don't know if it was a We Skill Now video or an Angus video or something that kind of broke down why skills are fun and why they're not. Like, what's like a universally loved skill in RuneScape? Wood cutting, right? Wood cutting comes to mind, universally loved. Yes, people gave forestry a little bit of shit, but like, end of the day, you don't have to interact with it, and if you do, it's just something to be engaged with. But like, I'm cutting a yew tree right now to get my fletching level up. It doesn't feel terrible. I'm just standing here chopping this tree every couple of ticks. Sometimes you get a log, sometimes you don't. Feels good to get one. That's the most simple level of reward loop for skilling. But it's hard to do for like a production skill. Like, because it goes from like, ooh, yay, I got another U log. I can get more fletching XP to like, son of a bitch, I broke my 4th Zenite ring in a row. Like, when you add that kind of like chance it's not going to work to a production skill or to a support skill, how does that even conceptually work with a skill like Slayer? I guess like in Slayer you get killed, in Hunter you don't get you don't get the creature, in Agility you fall off the thing or you fail the obstacle. But what we're missing in a fun gameplay loop, we're also missing in reward. And the best thing they have done for skilling has probably been the Hollowed Sepulcher.
Amen.
Because it gives a pretty substantial reward at floor 5, while also giving like, decent alkables, a fun new cosmetic to go for, some other like bits and baubles that are just, neat, while providing a real challenge. Michael can tell you, I was down horrendously when I first got 92 agility. That shit was harder than the Inferno when I got down to floor 5. That was horrible. But after a while, dude, I became obsessed with that sub 6 minute. I think my PB's like a 6 minute 3 second, and it haunts me to this day. I don't have it's so bad. I was so pissed about it.
The pattern though, right? Like the actual floors you need to get the optimal chance at a good time,
yep,
right? Okay.
Yep. I looked up the videos.
Right, good,
I marked all the tiles.
I've never heard more. I've never heard more about. I got the speed run layout more than when Oxie was doing Sepulcher.
I'd be in VC like, boys, we got the good floor 1. We got the good floor 2. Oh, we lost a tick. Fuck this. I'm out in the middle of floor 3. Like, yeah, I was going insane trying to get the sub 6 minute at Sepulcher. But looking back, it was like, I don't know if enjoyable's the word, but it made it memorable, right? Yeah. And I feel like that's hard to do because at the end of the day, Guardians of the Rift, you're just chunking through reward pulls to get the full outfit. You're just chunking through forestry mini games to get the pet cosmetics and the collection log items. Like, I don't know. Skilling,
It needs rewards. It needs something that's going to keep you there.
Yeah, I know. Like Kieran, have you been listening to like the official Old School RuneScape podcast?
Yeah, the 2 episodes that were published like 4 months after they were recorded.
They're actually pretty good.
Oh, they're so good. They're so
normally,
good. They were
I'm
just
like, why
slightly
do you guys want to
irrelevant.
listen? Yeah, like why do you want to listen to Michael and I talk for like 4 or 5 hours at a time? That's crazy. And then Aiza Sween and Kieran hop in a call, and I'm like, all right, I could listen to them talk for like 4 hours at a time.
They're great.
I get it. But Kieran kind of talks about that balance between like XP and money is hard to balance with skilling. So I don't know. What about you, Michael? What do you think?
Well, I forgot the original question.
I feel like I just rambled about nothing. I'm sorry.
No. We all are. It's. I mean, I just want us to take a look at the state of skilling, and as much like I see this as like a bar graph or like just a chart where you see like the PVM updates over the years, and it's just skyrocketing. I mean, it's just like compared to 2013 old school RuneScape. I mean, we had KBD, KQ, Barrows, DKs. I mean, it's just like that is the extent of PVM. And now you look in 2024, it's like, holy fuck, we have so much. Skilling, of course, you can list, several amazing minigames, Sepulcher being definitely like the top one. But fundamentally, like skilling has definitely not had that huge surge of excitement and fun and like relevancy as PVM has. I mean, the game literally is centered around PVM nowadays for the vast majority of people. Back in the day, it was about getting your first 99. Like that was a celebration, flexing your 99 cape was amazing.
Because back in the day, what's important about flexing a 99k back in the day? The social aspect of it. Back in the day, you interviewed Josh Strife Hayes. He talked about. I'm sure I didn't listen to the episode. I'm sure he talked about the point of MMOs back in the day was they were chat rooms for people. Nobody had Discord. Nobody had Skype. Nobody had TeamSpeak. So when you showed up with all your friends and holy shit, this guy's got a rune crafting cape. Are you fucking kidding me? That's cool. That's real cool. Nowadays, it's not as impressive to show off that like you're the only one in your friend group who can cut a magic tree or craft a death rune or craft 2 nature runes at once. Like nobody really cares. We've seen it online a lot. We talk to each other all the time. Which is why we kind of like on XP Waste, we really stress like achievement of the week. Like any achievement in RuneScape is worth talking about, not just like Infernal Cape, Zuck Helm type deal, because that is unfortunately the mentality sometimes with like myself and Michael included. But yeah, I don't know. I had another point there. Oh, not every PVM release has been good.
True.
Right? Like not like I would imagine you're well versed enough at PVM to consider yourself part of the end game, yeah?
Yeah.
You like a Moxolotl?
I mean, it was fun on my low level account.
The new giant bosses proposed. You like the?
I'm actually excited for those because I am playing a new account. So I feel like you're trying to like bait a no for me, but I'm actually excited.
Which yes, in the context of a low level account, fantastic.
Yeah.
But if you're like a no monkey, for example, it doesn't do anything for you. Right? What the hell are you going to do with that? You're going to get the combat achievements, you get your Zuck Helm back, and then you move on to something else.
To be fully fair, I was in a group with him, and he admitted Scurious is pretty fucking S tier. He was a fan of it, but he's only a fan of it because he's a low level, and so it's actually
you can't talk shit about Rat Boss. Everybody loves Rat Boss.
Rat Boss is great.
I don't know. It's just I feel like there's also been a plethora of not great PVM updates since old school's inception, but they're overlooked because in general PVM good, skilling bad.
Yeah,
as a community sentiment. But
yeah, no,
I have a hot take.
There's like always whenever you really want to push skilling to be more rewarding, there's always that problem it's just always in the corner of the room. You don't want to really acknowledge it, but it's like, oh yeah, botting exists. Like great,
it's gonna get botted. Yep.
So it's anything that's too simple, anything that people would genuinely enjoy, which is just fucking relaxing, chopping a tree. As soon as it becomes rewarding, It's like, okay, well, it can't be because you can have bots just do this super, super simply. And that's a whole nother discussion of just botting in general. The thing that mostly depresses me about botting, I'm not going to get into this, by the way, of like too much, because the discussion of botting just feels like this endless repetition of me saying the exact same points, just regurgitating it over and over and over, and nothing ever gets done about it. But like, holy shit, I really wish botting would be a more talked about issue and a thing that they're actually like really working, like pouring bunch of resources into clearing botting and stuff. But what depresses me most is the people that are like, bro, you don't understand. If bots weren't in the game, this game would die, or I wouldn't even want to play this game if it wasn't for the bots. That fucking depresses me. That there's genuinely people that are like so grateful for the bots there, so their prices are lower. I'm like, you do understand that also
relationship.
It's like, but people only see it one-sided, and that usually is the argument. It's like they like the bots because their resources are cheaper. But I'm like, you do understand that like if bots didn't exist in this fantasy world, it's like you could do anything and it would all be like supply and demand, and so you could do the most tedious activity and genuinely profit because there wouldn't be any bots doing it. So it's like, I don't know.
You make a good point.
Yeah,
you could go chop ewes and make $2 million an hour, like you used to be able to.
Yeah, I mean that would be another discussion
providing a service
based on PVM. And the thing is if there wasn't bots, we wouldn't have the really egregious drop tables, because the only reason that drop tables are so generous is, I mean, a big reason for that is because it's like bots aren't going to be able to do it, so it can be a lot of GP per hour. And so I don't know. I feel like drop tables would be a lot more balanced without bots. Things like the whole skilling economy would function a lot more, I don't know, balanced in a way. And just everybody, no matter what you enjoyed in the game, you could make good profit off of it because there's no bots doing it.
My hot take.
Yeah.
Besides, like, the bot conversation is a pretty hot button topic. I think that I could get pretty tinfoil hat about it. But besides the botting conversation, my hot take is that skilling isn't getting any love, and it's not going to get love because Jagex is like, they are shackled to the current XP rates by, I don't know if it's the high level community or just everybody banding together. But when they were talking about like agility changes, I was screaming into my microphone that we need to buff the XP rates. And they did, but they barely buffed them. And it's like, well, okay, that was your fix. We should have doubled the XP per hour for agility. That would have solved so many problems. And
really?
I know that's
okay, we're just, yeah, no, that is a hot take. I appreciate it. This is going to be exciting to talk about.
We went into it like pretty in depth in our show, so like I've had a lot of time to think about it, but the reason agility sucks is because it's slow, right?
I don't think so.
A skill
I don't think that is actually.
Level 90, what's your max XP per hour if you're not doing sepulcher? Like 60K, 65K an hour?
I think it's like, well, it's 70K now. Are you talking about after the buff?
Yeah, before the buff.
Okay, I was like
before
63.
The buff, 60. Yeah, you're in the 60s. You can achieve 60K an hour at like 15 fire making. It's wildly imbalanced when it comes to how much effort you're putting into a skill and the time it takes to get to level 90. I think level 90 should have been 150, 200K an hour. Not for rooftops.
Yeah.
I was talking like floor 5 sepulcher. Like, you should be rewarded like pretty heavily for that level of skill. But what do you get at level 5? Like, what do you get at tier 5 sepulcher at 92? I mean, know. It's like
you can get 100K XP an hour with just looting the last chest.
100K.
Wow, does it feel bad to get 100K in XP an hour though? You are sweating your balls off to get 100K.
But we have to remember this. Sepulcher, and I feel like Oxie, you might be able to agree with me. It doesn't even feel like you're training agility. It doesn't even feel like it.
No.
You're focused on so many other things. You're focused on your movement. You're focused on not fucking up. You're focused on getting a better time. There's just so much more going on that it's like one of the most beautiful updates that's really showed that skilling literally, I mean, it has nothing about Sepulcher is genuinely that dependent on the XP rate per hour. Obviously, there is something to be said about it. Clearly, you can't just have it be 2k XP an hour, obviously, but like the amount of fun that is had in Sepulcher and the amount of like hurdles to overcome and get better and better and better, like that is so addicting. It's the same way I saw solo Olm. Obviously, that's PVM, but it's like learning solo chambers. I didn't care at all about the purples. I didn't care about the points I was getting. I didn't care about anything. I was so invested in just getting better, and it was so addicting. So addicting to get better. So
there is something to be said about like the satisfaction you get, right? But I'm not playing this game to be satisfied, I don't think, at the end of the day. I am to a certain extent, but like it's gonna wear off after your 9,000th lap at Artie. You're like, why am I doing this? Why do I want a max cape? But they made agility meaningful with like how your, at least they are going to, with how your agility level now with the new with the beta that they talked about, how it's going to scale based on your level. So it's like if in agility is just one example of wildly imbalanced rates when it comes to different skills. The fact that you can one-click construction for like 900k an hour.
Yeah.
Kind of cracked.
Well, no. And like you bring up a point, I'm going to just kind of, so I'm going to just focus on agility for now.
Okay.
Like I feel like there's so many problems with agility at this point, and we're blinded by it in a way. Like, one thing is rooftops, just the aesthetics, just the visual, the animations, everything that's going on in the rooftop is a fucking atrocious. It's so depressing. It was made when the team had 5 people on it. It was like, okay, we got to throw up some sort of update. So here we go. Whatever his name is, Big Japan or whatever, is going to make this roof. Yeah, Big Red Japan is like, all right, here we go. By the way, when you jump across this fucking roof, we're going to catapult you, but it's going to look like you're all of a sudden on a broomstick, and it's going to be the most glitchy thing ever. And by the way, whenever you load up, you got to wait there for 2 ticks. So your guy just stands still randomly. And then when he arrives at the next thing, he's also standing still for a tick until you can run again. It's like, dude, this is just a small portion, but if you were to drastically improve the aesthetics and the animations and everything and make it so you really feel like you're running on a rooftop and leaping from roof to roof, I'm not going to lie, and I don't feel like people can even really recognize how powerful of a change this would be, just the visual element. That would make rooftops so fun if you were to actually click with precision. Similar, I feel like I want to almost attach mixology with this. Have you guys done the new Herblore minigame?
Yeah.
There is something to be said about like those little teeny things where, okay, the pump is going and you click on this certain tick and it's always like a consistent thing. Imagine you were jumping from a roof and during that jump, there is a timing you can do where you click again and your dude just gets like a boost or something. And then your dude's just fucking zooming on the next roof and he's running. And it just feels like this amazing thing where you're actually not only is it just this, it's not this sticky mess anymore that we're so used to where it's like I have to run these rooftops and the whole thing is clunky and mechanical and just nasty. But now it's like, no, I'm zooming, I'm flying across this roof and I'm clicking on the right ticks where if I click it every single time, I'm not going to fail it. There is a chance if I don't click, then I'll fail and I'll fall off the roof. But as long as I'm executing properly, the whole thing is going to look amazing. It's going to be awesome. And you can actually compete with other people that are also running. Because if you're not missing any clicks, you're actually racing people now. Now there's a little bit of competition going on.
So how do you like the Priv course?
It's still like a clunky mess. I mean, you got some elements where it's like, okay, cool, here's a portal, but everything is just slow. And again, this is something that like in my head makes sense, but me talking about it's because we've never seen something that really feels smooth and like addicting. It's like it's hard for me to express it.
There's a small concept of it with the new worm agility course. Where it's one course, but you have different levels. You have the basic and the advanced.
Yeah.
They could have done something like what you're talking about, where you have more interactive mechanics if you take the advanced course. It's not just a different like agility level to access it, and it's just, you know, point and click again.
I will say with the worm course, I have done several hours of it. The visual of it is it's improved on a different level compared to every other course. Like honestly, one of the things that actually like makes me kind of sad is like just that first obstacle where you jump and you're jumping across the little blocks, like boom, boom, and it's in like this nice little rhythm and it looks really smooth and clean. It would actually be cool if you were actually interacting with that and it actually was like, okay, you're going to click on the certain timing. And if you click on the certain timing, you don't mess up. If you mess it up, then that's one. And again, this would not be for the worm course. This is something for like an advanced course where you do want the focus, like a sepulcher, like a beginner sepulcher, where it's like you're not having to dodge arrows, but you're just trying to click with precision. And if you're precise with it, you're going to have this amazing smooth animation where everything goes right. And then you do have that element of competition. But yeah, you are right. Like it looks beautiful. Like the worm course is beautiful. Like you're seeing yourself zip line down and everything.
They could absolutely add PVM elements for practicing different mechanics too.
Yep.
And this is totally different as an example, but with Scurious, it's a early to mid game boss that gets you used to end game mechanics, and I think that aspect of that aspect of how they're developing new content is very interesting and like forward thinking. They could add different elements into like skilling activities that aren't necessarily like punishing, but they familiarize you with other mechanics in the game.
Yeah,
that would be cool.
Yeah, it would even. I mean, just imagine. Like, I'm assuming you guys have done Tob, the like Soda Seg maze.
Once or twice, yeah.
Yeah. Well, imagine you had a rooftop course or just some sort of new course that's introduced where there are some random elements, but for the most part, it's pretty chill. You know, you got to be focused. You got some elements where you're jumping across a roof and you got to click on a certain timing, but then you enter this floor where, okay, now there's a randomized sort of little Soda Seg maze, and everyone's got kind of a different one right there. Oh, also, I failed to mention this, but the other really annoying part with rooftops, and I think Paul Nivnich is actually the worst offender when it comes to this, is just how many different levels there are. Like there's the like where your characters just disappear for a little bit and they go on to a different like level. And so can we just across the board standardize? If you're on this course, you can see everybody on it instead of everyone disappearing and reappearing on different like it's just like this looks so bad. This is just
like it made sense when they released it a decade ago, you know?
Exactly.
But and after messing with Creator Kit a little bit for some stuff for the show, I feel like I can see a reused animation now. Like now that you bring it up, it's like well, it just never clicked to me before. It's like, oh yeah, there were 5 people working on this. They took the animation for jumping over the fence in Varrock, and we're like, fuck it. Let's just put it when you click this part of the roof, you do the Varrock fence jump, and then you're there. Like that works well enough, and it does work well enough. It helps you train the skill, but it doesn't look up to the standard of what we have come to expect in RuneScape.
Just imagine they never took any care in the visuals of PVM. So when you're attacking something, the monster doesn't flinch back. In fact, like just imagine your scythe was actually just like a really shitty like 2-frame animation where it just goes clink, clink. It's just like you're just hammering it down kind of. There's no real visual element. That would make PVM worse. It literally would. Like just the visuals, the satisfaction of swinging that scythe actually adds an element of fun to the game.
No.
And with skilling, and especially with rooftop agility, it's just not. It's non-existent. In fact, it actually you'd almost want no animations because of how bad some look. It's like I'd actually prefer this to not even have had an animation.
Treadmill agility. Come on. Treadmill agility. It's coming one day. The treadmills.
The treadmill and the POH. It only costs like 200 mil. Just shove it in there and gain like a few XP every tick.
Brother, yeah. I swear to God, if I was on my maxing grind still, and you said it only cost you 200 mil, I would sell the shit out of my bank to AFK agility on my a POH treadmill at work. Oh, that would have been so nice.
Here's the other problem I have with skilling, and I don't know how much you've, I don't know, heard of this term, the gnome cube. Have you guys even heard of that? My audience has heard gnome cube several thousand times out of my mouth in past episodes, so they always get a chuckle. Some get a chuckle, some get irritated when I bring it up, but it's another thing where like I personally have engaged with tick manipulation skills and I love it. But the reason I love some of them is not because of the sheer amount of clicks you have to do. It's the rhythm of it. It's the flow. It's the satisfaction of predictable resource extraction. So when you're clicking on a tree, it's like, I don't know if you've ever done two tick teaks. It's like you click on the ground, you click on a tree, click on the ground, click on a tree. But even though it's so simplistic, it's like you get satisfaction knowing when you click the tree, you have a chance of getting that log right there when you've clicked it. Instead of a lot of skilling methods where, for example, Wintertodt Brazier, you click the Brazier, your log doesn't instantly go in it. Your dude loads up, waits several ticks, or you click the knife with the log and it loads up 3 ticks until the action actually starts happening. None of that feels good. We accept it because it's just how the game is. So it's like, whatever. But then there's nothing about that feels good. So the gnome cube it's not my idea. It came from these other guys that were proposing the skill called mastery back when they came out with like taming and sailing and shamanism. And people are throwing out other ideas, and this came from it. And it was basically going to be a reward from this new skill. And it basically just, instead of knife logging or herb tarring, just to start that like action, it would just be a one-click little item in your inventory that simplifies that. And so instead of being a 2-click, it becomes a 1-click. And it goes even beyond that when I think about skilling, because I want people to actually see how fun tick manipulation can be, but not necessarily the classic tick manipulation we think of, which is like 3 tick 4 granite, where it's just like you got the sweatiest players that are currently developing carpal tunnel. It's just like when we think of tick manipulation, so many people are like, fuck that. Like, I've seen the nerds that do that. I'm never even going to touch it. I want the game to embrace the rhythmic nature of skilling, and so I want more skilling methods to come out that embrace that sort of like rhythmic thing, rather than, in my opinion, regressing to a time where everything becomes AFK, and then it's just like I don't know. I just feel like there's so much potential for skilling, and so much of that comes down to rhythm and not the sheer amount of clicks you're performing. And so I'm really struggling right now. But yeah, this is...
No, I agree, because like, well, I would say I agree, but with the one caveat that I think there should still be options.
Yes, for sure. Totally on board with that.
Because there is something to be said about watching a movie and just like AFKing bone shards. You know what I mean? We play this game not to play this game a lot. At least I do. So yes, in one sense, having something AFK is amazing. But then I think back to my maxing journey when I was presented with a choice of like, do I go to Wintertodt or do I learn how to do this sweaty fire making method at the GE where you're like running around and you're clicking the entire time and you're not just like doing a simple line fire. You're engaging with the skill in kind of a unique way where it's a lot more efficient. And I actually really enjoyed like learning that and doing it as a method. And things like Tithe Farm is a great example of that, where you're just not you're not planting the plant and waiting for it to grow. You're making an entire line, and you have to water them in a certain cycle, and it's very click intensive, but it can get rewarding. It like not rewarding in the sense that you're getting anything out of it other than just like satisfaction of I am good at Tithe Farm.
Yeah.
The rhythm of it makes it enjoyable for me. And there's a lot of different things I think that could be improved with, like you're saying, like just add a rhythmic metronome type get in the zone method of doing this.
There's also something to be said about power methods, so like power mining, power fishing, or just like it's just dropping your stuff. I mean, Honestly, nobody really enjoys dropping their shit.
No.
Like, it's just awful. I mean, it's always kind of been seen as, no, this is just what you have to do if you want the most efficient. You gotta lose money doing it. So there's absolutely no reward. In fact, there's an anti-reward. You're actually just like wasting resources depending on what you're using. So like, for example, granite, mining, it's just like the whole thing. Like, imagine granite mining was a profitable method. Imagine, like, because you think with Hunter, for example, before like Hunter rumors came out, Hunter had never had this top tier method that you don't make any money on, and that's the most efficient. No, it was actually the complete opposite. It was black chins are the best money and the best XP. And that was so cool. And it's got some risk elements, and we could talk about that as well. But like, and with Sepulcher, you don't do Sepulcher and you lose money. Like you're not running a Sepulcher, not getting any rewards.
Sanity, but not money.
Yeah. But like I'm sorry, like this is my personal opinion. Like we have to get past that weird toxic mindset where like the most advanced methods, the most engaging methods can't be rewarding. And we are still living in that era when it comes to fishing and mining and even woodcutting. Yep. It's all like, you want the best XP, you got to drop everything. Continually drop every single piece of resource. It's like, what is this? Really? Like how are we still embracing this? This is awful. Like,
so we love a little bit of speculation, and we love making shit up that is probably never going to make it into the game. What is a good rhythmic, and like rhythmic is the perfect word. Like we're on a 100 beats per minute rhythm game that's themed as an MMO where you click boss and get money and all that. What is a rewarding, like tick perfect equals best XP method for fishing? What do we think that could look like?
Okay, well, I've been doing right now I'm just AFKing fishing right now. I'm doing barbarian fishing. There is something very special about barbarian fishing. Now, it could be improved in myriad ways. I mean, just seriously, just getting some sort of reward, because when you're doing barbarian fishing, if you're AFKing it or you're sweating it, you're dropping all the fucking fish. Like, that's just it. You're just dropping it. So you're getting absolutely no reward. We have to fundamentally change that. I could bring up a bunch of random, just spitballing ideas of how you could make this rewarding and how you could generate some GP or generate something that's worthwhile, that's some sort of reward, or maybe even get a special fish here and there that's actually worth something. You can sell it to a fish trader. So something like that.
It'd be cool.
Yeah.
It'd be cool like if a random fish jumped out of the water on a cycle and you had to click that fish to get it, and maybe that one was worth something.
Maybe when sailing comes out, you're on your boat and you can start spear fishing, and you kind of like a combination of that shit you can do in Perilous Moons, where you can like move your net, and aerial fishing where you click on the moving spots. So like if you're on the left side of the boat, fish are jumping out of the water, you click them to toss the harpoon, you click back on the boat to reel the harpoon in, then you click the fish again to get it off. So like 1, 2, 3, reset, 1, 2, 3, reset. You get the XP drop on the third or fourth tick, whatever it is. But then occasionally you'll see, like, obviously it can't be a whale because people would get upset about that, but like you see like a squid or something, and the squid is the special food item that gets you, like, it restores food, but it also restores special attack. So like that probably is going to be worth some money in PVM, but you have to sweat your ass off to get it in this spearfishing mini game. So it's got a rhythm, and it could potentially make a little bit of money. Michael will tell you, I love spitballing this type of shit.
I love it.
It's not going to make it into the game, but man, is it fun. When
we have these discussions though, like elements of the things we talk about do get talked about further, and then those can become a Reddit post or a Twitter post, and then eventually things come into the game. I made a video like years ago talking about some Dorgish Khan light orb method that I wanted that to get buffed. Like I wanted to see improvements, and like I've just mentioned a bunch of random like spitball ideas for like how they can improve it. 3 years down the line, they just randomly come out with an update. It was like exactly what my video was proposing in a way. Like just me, and the video only got like 2,000, 3,000 views. Like nobody talked about it after that. But like, I feel like JMods really do go out of their way to listen to podcasts and to watch videos of creators and get ideas. And then on top of that, Reddit and Twitter. And if we talk about things that make sense, I feel like those things actually do have a chance of entering the game. Let me also bring this up. You know what's really boring is having a specialized skilling tool. For example, Dragon Harpoon, Dragon Axe, and a Dragon Pickaxe. And the best fucking special attack they could possibly think of is boost your level by 3. That's it. With 100% spec, you boost your fucking level by 3. Oh, by the way, if you're 99, it doesn't actually do anything.
Right.
So what the fuck is that? Like, can we make it so a Dragon Pickaxe, when you click the special, just has this massive swing that just gets like 4 resources in that one swing where you click it instead of getting 1. Like, how badass would it be to have like an equivalent of like Dragon Claws when it comes to skilling? So it's like clicking your special bar feels... It like gives you dopamine instead of it just being this random invisible boost that you can't even perceive.
You know what could be fun?
Yeah.
You know how the Soul Reaper Axe works?
Yeah.
What if you either had an attachment to these tools or like an offhand or a backpack or something where like instead of your like +3 special attack, some guy just hit the chop where I'm standing in leagues. Instead of that, you gain these like skiller points, and as you build them and build them and build them, finally, you know, you exert all your energy and swing your axe with all of your might, and the tree comes crumbling down and you get 8 logs with 8 logs worth of XP.
You're actually brilliant.
That happens like every... I don't know what the cycle would be, obviously, because that's where the challenge of like XP per hour comes in, because then you've taken mining from like I think I will take a shot of bleach kind of skill because it's so goddamn slow to like, holy shit, Runite rocks are actually really profitable and a shit ton of XP per hour. I don't know, maybe it only works with like higher level. That's not my job to figure all that shit out.
No. You're right on the money about the Soul Reaper. In fact, I think last year, I think it was on the Travis 42 cast, I talked about this exact point of I was talking about the dragon skilling tools having some sort of cool special attack, and then I realized, oh shit, you can't really come out with anything too good because there's too many methods where you could just go to your pool again and just keep rejuvenating that spec and just keep using it. So the Soul Reaper was the solution to it. The Soul Reaper has these charges that build up. They don't build up by drinking a pool or by just, you know, restoring your spec somehow. No, it builds up by you actually using it. So these dragon tools or whatever tool would be implemented, it would have this sort of Soul Reaper vibe where you actually have to build it up. So the special cannot just be abused on repeat because of spec transferring alts or something. No, it has to be, you have to chop the tree and this thing keeps boosting up. And then, yeah, like you said, you just go to town on it when you finally unleash the spec, and it just destroys the tree and probably like 2 others nearby it and extracts all the logs for you.
Yeah.
You get all
and
the
then
XP.
Like, if something like that happened, perhaps it naturally balances itself. Like, let's say you need 10 of a resource to fully charge the Soul Reaper pickaxe or whatever we're fucking talking about. Nobody cares if you get 10 ore of copper. If you get 10 copper, 10 iron worth of XP, it probably increases power mining rates. That's pretty cool. As long as it doesn't ruin it for everybody immediately. Like, could you imagine being at the woodcutting guild using the big spec and then all of the magic trees just disappear because some asshole had to hit the Soul Reaper spec?
Yeah,
like,
it would be a cap for sure.
That would definitely feel bad, but at the same time,
he's been saving up for 30 days of loading this bad boy up. He actually just demolishes the redwoods nearby too. They're just
exactly.
gone,
the redwoods just people fall to their death. Yeah, no, but I mean like.
Rip hardcores.
Like if you're cutting like regular logs, the Soul Reaper stacks could build pretty quickly. Yeah. But magic logs take a long damn time. So it kind of in a way balances itself out with the GP and the XP that comes from it. Like even if you got half as many logs as you had Soul Reaper stacks, you could still speed it up a little bit. Yeah. You know, like
no,
it could work.
You could, and
isn't that the?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Michael.
Isn't that the idea with the Forester's rations? It's like you're using this other thing to make woodcutting faster.
Them Forester's rations kind of confused me. Someone just told me crystal two-handed axe and Forester's rations, so I bought like 15,000 of them in a crystal axe and did woodcutting. I don't know how they work.
Yeah,
they do increase your XP per hour. Like I think they make.
They definitely did. Redwoods were so nice with the Forester's rations, but I know when they were first proposed, it was like it's gonna use your stamina to give you extra logs.
They were going so complicated mode on that. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Stop it! Like, simplify it, please.
Yeah, it was not fun.
Good thing part 2 of Forestry didn't come out. Did you see how much they were originally going to be adding to part? It's just like this ungodly amount of random extra garbage they were just going to throw into it. I'm like, dude, this is so complicated. This is so freaking complicated. Like, can we just chill out like for a little bit and just? I'm so glad.
It's already like it feels a bit complicated now.
It's very complicated for a new player. And I have my own problems with forestry. It's not keeping me up at night, but like, holy crap. I was just like, what are we doing with this? Please do not do the forestryization of mining and fishing next, please, for the love of God. I don't want just a bunch of random Toontown events happening with everything that we're doing in the game world. That's terrifying to me.
I do like the fact that resource spots became significantly less competitive with forestry. That was a good change.
Yep. No.
And I think that change could really benefit mining and fishing in some ways, where like the more people who are doing that activity, the bigger of a buff that you get. That could be nice. But yeah, I don't want the harpoon thing as a collection log based mini game, like this.
I just don't know how that we've gone this many years without any form of balancing with normal rocks across the game. Who in their right mind would ever mine an adamant rock? That shit is the most unbalanced.
Singular.
Just
I can tell you one guy who will do it exactly 50 times in Raging Echoes League, and then not again until League 6.
Dude, it's so clear how imbalanced all this is. It's so bad. It's so egregious. There's a reason why people only mine iron or only mine sandstone or only mine granite. Like these methods where you actually mine it and it mines. It's not like you're sitting there for 45 seconds. Have you tried to mine gold? Even gold rocks. You'll sit there sometimes for 40 seconds at 99 mining and you won't mine it. You're just sitting there hacking away. Like, can we please just go in here and fix the success rates, fix the respawn rates, fix everything so it actually feels good and it feels meaningful to get to these next tiers of being able to mine stuff. It's like
one of the main problems we're running into as a game is like, how does it feel to have to run halfway across the world for a rock when it's not next to any sort of way that you can save it?
Exactly.
And that's how it should be though, right? Like you shouldn't have a rune or rock right next to a bank. Like immersion wise, that would feel weird. It makes sense to have like fishing spots and trees everywhere because you have towns that congregate near rivers and near the ocean, and you have trees that just sprout up anywhere. But mining is a hard one. Unless it's the mining guild where they specifically, develop this entire infrastructure around a bunch of rocks, randomly mining in the world just feels bad. So they would have to make it make sense. And unfortunately, it would probably only be something that's viable within like the mining guild. If it was for higher tier.
Thematically, it makes sense for some things. Like there are runite rocks in the Myths Guild. Yeah. But that can thematically make sense. Is like, hey, you stopped a fucking world-ending dragon. Here's a runite rock kind of close to a bank.
Runite rocks are just poorly designed. Like they make sense in 2001 or whatever, but like
and like you can tell it made so much sense back then. Yeah. You had to risk your life to get an item that was going to make you fucking bank.
Yeah.
After putting the time commitment into doing it.
So
that
can I just say, so several years back I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make a video of sweating my ass off mining the 2 runite rocks in the deep wilderness. And the reason I'm choosing the wilderness ones is because I'm going to only be on total level worlds. So they're always going to be there ready for me as soon as I hop to the next world. And I'm just going to do this for an hour straight, tick manipulating this. Like 1.5 ticking, basically. Like just, doing the most sweaty method. This was a video. I did it at like 2 a.m. where I knew I wasn't going to have any competition. And I had a looting bag and everything. I only made like 1.8 mil that hour, sweating so hard with no competition in the wilderness. Like it was just like
so bad.
I made 1.8 mil an hour at 99 mining with all the gear I need and everything, and I only made 1.8 mil. I'm like, dude, it's just like, what can we like? Okay, I'm not gonna try to like bring up the suggestions right now on this podcast, but it's like there are so many ways to rebalance rocks and make them. Also, I just got to say, when it comes to runite, I actually don't think it would be a problem for them to be local to the player, as in there is no competition across worlds. So you're not having to fight with 3,000 other bots that are trying to mine the same things. It's all local to you. And with that locality, you can also get rid of the world hopping shenanigans that we're all used to and we all love, right? We all love the world hopping. But it's like,
I love World Hop Simulator. Yippee!
Yeah. Imagine there was a way to actually just have everything local, everything respawns super, super quick. There's no competition, and it's still balanced, so you're not just making egregious amounts of money. But it's balanced in a way where you don't need a world hop. You can actually mine runite as a training method. It's not going to be amazing XP per hour, but it is a GP thing that you can do, and it's actually kind of chill. And you don't have to have the annoyances of, competing with bots. Like, that'd be great. Again,
and in theory, as long as they don't change the price of the high alch value of rune items, it'll always be a moneymaker. Like, bot it to death, it doesn't matter. It's always going to be at least 10K ish per ore.
Are you familiar with what they did in RS3?
They just made it so you can just go to any rock and you can just kind of sit there and it just keeps mining it, right?
Something like that.
It's not just one rock extraction. It's like, sit there and
you just keep going and eventually it'll run out. But then they made it to where if you click at a certain time, whenever the rock is like glowing, then you get something extra. That's that little like rhythmic thing or that interaction element that you're talking about earlier.
I feel like
I'm sensing some sort of mining update coming. Probably, if I had to guess, once they can get settled in with sailing, we'll probably get a mining and smithing rework of some sort.
That makes sense. I just gotta pinpoint that thing you said of just like occasionally there's like some shining thing you gotta click it. That's actually not what I mean. And in fact, those mechanics are sometimes actually more irritating than enjoyable, even though they kind of make sense in theory. Giant's Foundry you guys have probably done Giant's Foundry where you just have this random thing where it clinks. That is really annoying for me because you want to kind of just relax sort of. And even though it feels good to get your meter a little bit boosted, just the fact that it's so random is not good. I think what they did with mixology makes a lot more sense, even though I will say the northern machine, whatever that, like the V machine or whatever, is a little bit more random. You do have to like be waiting and just anticipating it. But I feel like that left machine that you go to where it's every single time it hits that 5 pumps, you click, that feels so much better than just some like keep paying attention. Could happen anytime. It could happen in the next minute or it could happen right now. Like just that's annoying.
Well, they can have a status bar of some
sort. Is annoying. I think I get what they were trying to do because Giant's Foundry isn't really an AFK-able activity. Like you'll fail the quality, get less XP and get less GP if you AFK too hard. Ask me how I know. So kind of forcing you to pay attention feels a little redundant. I get what they were trying to do. Like, it's rewarding for players who are really focused. You can't do the activity without being really focused.
And you're going to hate your life if you're focused on Giant's Foundry.
Damn, ain't that the truth? Holy.
Just full attention on Giant's Foundry for the next 5 hours. Let's just stare at this. Yeah.
It's so boring. I've skipped out on Giants Foundry.
And you know the worst.
I did it.
I can't say it's the worst part. I tend to say that the worst part. Now, a part that's annoying is the fact that okay, they came out with this. Most people don't like Blast Furnace. I actually enjoy Blast Furnace, but the only reason I enjoy it is because once you're 99, you get all the beautiful perks, you know. And so nobody gets to enjoy it until you've already done it all, and then you get some enjoyment from it.
Get me started on that.
But Giants Foundry, they I feel like their intention was to add some variety to it. But if you play an Iron Man, it's like this is not adding variety. This is adding the new dominant meta that you can't stray from because it's so overpowered.
Mm-hmm.
It's so.
Are you saying you don't like spending 2 weeks straight buying ore to get your Giants Foundry?
Thing is,
like, good for 99 smithing, huh?
The problem is okay. Well, at first I thought you were going to say buying the gold ore to do Blast Furnace.
No, I meant the ore for Giants Foundry because. Listen, I have an Iron Man. I'm not maxing that bitch anytime soon. I don't even remember. I think I calculated on the OSRS portal exactly how much Addy and Myth I would need to green log Foundry, and that was it. I ain't doing any more beyond that. I think I did Blast Furnace until I ran out of gold. Gold I had accumulated over the 5 years of my account from PVM and all that. Did all that, and then Michael was like, Oxie, trust me. Smith, Adam, play bodies in Priv. I'm like, all right, fine. Top 3 skilling method ever. Love that shit. Absolutely love play bodies in Priv.
Yeah, it's chill as hell. And guess what? You can't do it on an Iron Man anymore because they buffed the living fuck out of Giants Foundry. So you have to do Giants Foundry. Iron Man forces you to do Giants Foundry because the amount of bars you need is 5% of what you would need normally to just do basic anvil smithing. And anvil smithing is so classic. It's such an iconic, just RuneScape method that genuinely it's
one of the first thing you learn.
It's like core to OSRS. They're like, nah, just scrap it. We're just gonna make this Giants Foundry, this weird Toontown minigame, just be so OP that even the thought of doing anvil smithing is just gonna be this huge waste of time. You're just wasting your bars, you're just burning them. And that's what happens when you make things too good. And that's what they did with Giants Foundry. Even though the method itself is so bad. But it's the actual rewards of it, the amount of resources you need to use is so little. It's too incentivized. And it didn't even add variety. It just made it the dominant meta for Iron Man, which is sad for me.
Sounds like I'm going to have to do it, unfortunately, because I'm maining a GIM right now.
Yeah.
And...
it's so sad. No, it actually depresses me because of how good it is. You are forced to do it. So I made a new Iron Man. I'm working on this. And I know for a fact, every little bit of smithing I do is going to go straight to Giants Foundry because it's too OP. Every other method is just wasting time.
Damn, dude.
It's so depressing. It's so depressing. The only way to have made it not depressing is for them to have actually made the minigame feel better. And I've offered suggestions in past videos of what they could do to just make it feel good. But it's just and I know some people enjoy it. It's all subjective at the end of the day. But I feel like there's RuneScape players that truly can find any masochistic thing enjoyable. It's just their nature to just be it's not that bad. It's not that bad.
People
and
choose.
I'm guilty.
People choose to be UIM, bro.
I know. I could never do that. I've still never made a UIM.
The level of self-hate has to be there. I'm kidding, by the way. UIMs are great people.
Yeah. Okay, let's. There's a Twitter topic here I've been eyeballing.
Ooh.
The Ultimate saying, Oxie, why are your takes so terrible and elitist without being an elite?
Oh, and then, thank God we brought it up.
One sec, and then he also says, Michael, love you, big homie. Keep up the good work.
Heart emoji.
All right, Oxie, let's hear it.
Somebody else tweeted something similar of hey, Oxie, why are you such a cringy fucking elitist?
Yeah, I seen that one too.
I listen, you guys.
What are they talking about exactly? Are there certain...
So,
let's hear it.
Michael and I, have for a very long time have had a yin and yang skiller PVMer dynamic. Those boundaries have kind of blurred a lot. I spent the last year maxing my main account, and Michael has spent the last year truly understanding PVM, which has like it's kind of like how the turntables in 2024. For years, Michael always has like half jokingly, half not jokingly called me an elitist for some of my opinions. Like the examples I used when talking to Michael about it earlier today, because he sent me a screenshot of the tweets. He's like, "Damn." I'm like, "Yeah, I saw him. You know, shit still doesn't bother me." Some of the examples I used are like feeling special stays on, or like as a learner, you're going to run the head, right? For a long time, I have spent a lot of time with players who are a lot better than me at this game, right? So I have watched and learned and absorbed how to do things at like the highest level, you know? I can't do all of those things. And to Yaltimate's point, right? I don't have all of the prestigious shit that you think somebody with, these quote unquote elitist mentalities would have. I've got Infernal Cape and Max Cape, sure, but like I don't have Zuck Helm, I don't have Blorva, I don't have Phalanx, right? They're things I'm obviously like going to be working on because that stuff is fun and I have spent the last year maxing. But he's right. You look at my resume, I don't have some of those things. I very firmly believe that you play with the best to get better. And when I say something like feeling special stays on, I know it might not be the correct thing for some raids. I know it might not be what you want to do. And I know it sure as hell is not going to be the easiest way, right? To learn to raid, right? Feeling special is punishing when you first do it. But can you think of a time where you send a TOA when you don't have feeling special turned on? At like any invocation level, right? Because once you learn how to do it, it's free. Same thing with running head. You die 10 times learning how to run head, but then you've learned the core mechanic of how to do group chambers. You just sit in the middle and run head. You don't have to skip. You don't have to take specials. You don't have to get abused on melee hand. You're just learning how to do it right then and there. I understand that it's not always the method that people want, but I know in the end of the day, this is why it sounds elitist and condescending. I know it will make you a better player, right? That's where the elitist and condescending nature of it comes from, is because it sounds like Oxie is saying he knows what's best for me. And I don't like that. And you know what? I'll admit it does sound like that sometimes. It's not a lack of awareness. I get it.
But you are actually pointing out the overall conclusion of it, which is this will make you a better player. This will make you understand the content rather than it just being do this because I told you to. Yes,
it's and I was talking to Michael about it earlier because he and I kind of had a conversation in DMs about this exact topic. I had a thought and then I totally lost it. A lot of the people who make these kind of comments, with the more like vitriolic undertones, like Yaltimate, right? Like, hey, Michael, I love you. You're great. Oxie, fuck you. You're an elitist and you're not actually good at the game, right? Yeah. I don't take it that personally. I don't care. I don't know who you are. You're a faceless account on Twitter. It doesn't bother me, right? It's not going to keep me up at night. But on the same token, Yaltimate, you've never actually learned a thing from me. You've never listened to any XP wasters out there who have ever done a learner chambers with me know all about the speech before Ulm, where we kind of break down every mechanic that you can see, right? Which we've honed over the years to not be like too much information that nobody understands. You've never sat in a Discord call with me while you're stuck behind a pillar and I'm trying to explain to you how to solve, this part of the Inferno. You've never done that. So you don't know what kind of teacher that I am. And I know I'm a good teacher. I ask my bingo teammates, ask anybody but Michael, because Michael really is brave for putting up with me. I am insufferable with Michael. I think it's like, for some reason with Michael, it's like raiding with my older brother or my little brother both at the same time, It's like, when he gets something wrong, I'm like, holy shit, I'm gonna unplug his controller. When I get something wrong, it's like, Oxy, there's sometimes a better way to do that. And I'm like, Michael, shut the fuck up. Like, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I like sit with, that's kind of how I sit with it. If that makes any sense, I don't know.
You bring up a point, Oxy, and to your defense, anytime you have an opinion on the show, you're talking to me. So like, yes, we are recording a podcast, but sometimes you get in a flow of just like, oh, I'm just talking to Michael and I'm going to shit on him. And I'm fine with it.
You make me out to be so goddamn mean. I'm not trying.
Sometimes you are.
My opinions aren't like, you know what? I hate Michael. I'm going to make him miserable. That's why I'm going to say this thing.
Well, okay. An example.
It comes from passion, right? He's just passionate.
An example of like a toxic trait you have is like shitting on Iron Man. But I don't know that that's actually your like core opinion. I think you just do it to upset me sometimes. But like an average listener is not going to pick up on that. They're going to be like, wow, he's so mean. Like, ew, they're going to get turned off by it. But to me, it's banter.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to listen to the show to understand that.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's the people who are coming to you with like, I watched 10 minutes of this video and I'm going to have an opinion on the whole thing type of attitude.
And that's like, those are valid critiques. Those are valid pieces, right? When you're comparing years worth of a relationship. I've slept at your house. You've slept at my house. I've met your wife and your child. You've seen my childhood home. Like, the relationship that you and I have goes deeper than sitting in a Discord call, right? And when it's you and I, because you do some of the same shit.
I do.
You do some of the same shit. You knew damn well. You're like,
it's just a max hit, bro.
If I talk about speeding up the agility rates, Oxy is gonna say something, and I'm sitting here biting my tongue, clutching my fucking broad bolts and leagues. So like, when you have that level of understanding, it's not personal. But when you hear it, you're like, damn, this guy's kind of a dick. I get that. I recognize that. I know that I, as a person, have enough flaws that like Yaltimates, and who's the other guy? Like K or somebody?
His name's 1A63289516.
Oh my god, I was gonna name my son that. Damn it, dude. That's crazy. The name's already taken. But like, when that kind of thing gets said by people like that, it doesn't. I don't know, man. I don't know how to word it other than like, I know I am not perfect, but like, that makes it sound like so cocky. Like, I'm not aware that I have any flaws. Like, trust me, motherfucker. I know about my issues way more than you do.
You can't hate me more than I hate myself.
Yeah, listen, man. Sometimes that is how it be.
The thing is what's funny about you talking about this is like, I've had people, I've made rambles where I'll talk about something and people claim I'm like the biggest elitist of all time and stuff. So I definitely have dealt with the same things as you, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean,
thing is,
I don't know. I don't have a challenge or a lesson. Just yeah, you're right. I guess next, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I feel like I've had. I actually was looking back at this ramble I made because it was just like suggested on my own profile. Look at that. I'm so into myself. I watch my own videos. No, this is one that was several months ago though, and I just glanced at it because I was like, oh yeah, what did I say on this? It was talking about the herb lore minigame and about my concerns with it before it was even in the game. I mean, this is like their first proposal. And so my whole video was like, I'm very concerned about this new herb lore minigame that's coming out. And everybody was freaking out. Not everybody, but there was several people that, their comments got highly upvoted of like, why are you so against new stuff coming in? I'm like, I'm literally not against new stuff coming in the game. I want new stuff. And I had to make this whole separate video where I like addressed, why I thought the way I did.
The allegations.
No, it really is, because some people will take what you say, and they'll put their own spin on it, mind reading you. Like they'll mind read you with something that you never even, it was never your intention, or like, you never even said that, but they're just like, no, you did. They're like projecting it onto you. And anyway, so I was just like rewatching this video of like my just response to like those comments and stuff, because it's the same thing where people are like claiming you're an elitist, and you have to like walk it back and be like look at, I'm not an elitist, I'm just concerned. Like there's a difference between being an elitist and caring about like the integrity of the game and stuff.
So here's my question. If I am an elitist, how does it affect you? That's my question to y'all out there. If I do have a series of elitist opinions, how does that affect you as a player or as a fan or as someone who like, I ain't never heard of you two? How does that affect you guys? Right? I don't know.
I'll answer that for you. People listen to podcasts and they want to relate. And if they can't relate, it makes them uncomfortable. That's number one. And number two is some people think that because we, develop or produce a podcast, we have some sort of influence, this invisible influence that they don't have. And our voice is being heard. And if they don't agree with what our voice is saying, they have to be upset about it.
Which That's also comes out of that passion piece, right? Damn, I wish that were the truth. I really wish that the suggestions Michael and I made always made it into the game. That shit would be wild. But
I'd probably
just yapping, dude. We're just yapping.
So many people. I think Michael and I would have quit by now if all of our suggestions made it into the game. I don't think he and I are still
and you guys have comments on your guys' podcast, and you guys read them, I'm imagining.
Oh yeah, everyone.
Yeah, and it's the same with me. In fact, I think it is a good thing, because ultimately the most mature take to have on this game is understanding that the game's not about you. This game is trying to, you're catering to so many different people and so many different play styles, and so this isn't just Call of Duty where you just shoot people. It's like, no, RuneScape is massive. Some people never PVM. Some people don't want to skill. Some people never engage with PvP. It's like you are the JMod team. First of all, I do not envy their role in trying to satisfy all these players. It's absolutely insane.
No, not even a little.
So over the years, I've become less and less jaded and less set in my like frame of mind where like the game needs to go this way, and I'm a lot more understanding and reading comments of like what people are suggesting and what is wrong with my take or what they would suggest. It's like, okay, it's all kind of coming together. I'm always a bit more, I would say now compared to 3 years ago, I'm so much more hesitant on some takes that I have. Some takes I'm really strong with, as you guys could tell with the skilling take I had, but like it's like some I'm very relaxed, and I kind of take a more relaxed approach. I'm like, okay, I don't actually know what the best way to go about this would be, and that's simply because I'm just like, dude,
it's that frontal lobe, bro.
Not everyone plays like me. Yeah, I know it is the frontal lobe developing. But.
We do be growing, and we do be developing. I mean, like, I was not the biggest fan of the Mastering Mixology minigame. Michael can tell. Anything I say, Michael can probably validate. Hey, because he's had to put up with my ass for so long.
Let me just interrupt.
I've listened to him twice.
I'm just gonna interrupt real quick on that point. You gotta hand it to the team though. When you're in charge of creating an herb lore minigame, I mean, you can't really do much with that, to be fair. And I think they actually nailed it out of the park with the balancing of it, with the rewards that are good enough to really make you want to do it and feel like you're achieving something. And on top of that, it's a very simplistic minigame that is so easy to just jump into. That is one of the best parts about it. You just go to the minigame. There's no quest to do. You just hop in, hop out whenever you want. There's no wait for a game for 5 minutes. It's like, I love that simplicity and just getting into the flow of it.
Yeah.
But it is kind of boring over time, for sure.
Well, I feel like everything in this game gets boring over time, right? It's fun the first time, the 10,000th time, it's like, okay, can we be done?
Yeah.
I will say for me, I had concerns with Mastering Mixology. And I was like, oh, this is going to be so shitty for Iron Man. Like, you have to get a shitload of experience, or you have to get a shitload of herbs, and then you just like waste them. Like, this seems not nearly as productive for like you could be using these resources.
Mm-hmm.
All the while, I don't play Iron Man mode. I don't main it. I like do some shit on my GIM because I got, teammates who like when I do shit on my GIM. But like, I had like main skiller brain where like for me, mastering mixology is not going to be better than fucking super restores.
Yep.
So like, I'm not even going to bother. Like there's going to be a collection log that'll be a post max Oxie problem. I think I did mastering mixology for like 10 minutes on day of release and was like, okay, yeah, mechanically this doesn't feel terrible. I don't have the supplies for this, but okay. From what I have heard from the friends I do have, mainly Iron Men who interact with the activity, they all seem to like it. They all seem to not really have an issue with it. And once you have the supplies, much like everything else with Iron Man, it's a breeze. So good. I think a lot of Varlamore Part 2 felt relatively underwhelming. But I don't think that was because the update was bad. I think it's hard to hold a candle to the fucking Coliseum and the first new region in 8 years, to release like 2 pretty mid-game bosses, an Iron Man skilling method, and then some like neat quests, I feel like it's hard to compare 1 and 2 for like hype wise, but I'm hoping Part 3 brings back a lot more of that hype. And again, Part 2 wasn't bad.
It was just not catered toward an end game PVMer. It was just
it definitely wasn't as exciting to like, because when like, oh man, when Varlamore 1 came out, dude, I was streaming. I had like, it's like 70 people watching. I'm just like running around the continent, just like talking to people, trying to like find shit. Like I had a great time. Those first couple of hours on Varlamore, but Part 2 did not hit the same. I think I was also way too deep in the maxing grind to even bother going to Varlamore, unfortunately. So we're done. We don't got to do that shit anymore.
I like part 2. It just seems like just adding some cool. I love the worm course. I think Huey. I haven't even really touched Huey. It seems like they've made some good balancing though, where things are a bit more achievable. Again, it's not for end game players really. But on this new Iron Man, I'm like, ooh, I'm kind of excited about Huey, actually. And I've always enjoyed crafting. I'm one of those weirdos that actually enjoys crafting. And it would actually be kind of cool to get like that Huey hide on an earlier game account.
Oh, yeah. It's a huge upgrade at that point. I mean, like, I don't think Huey is bad. It's
just underwhelming for people that probably wanted more to it. But
yeah, like people are like, oh, you need a double hit and this and that. I said, that's a lot of words. Too bad I'm not reading them. Scythe. And that's like what I just like. That was my experience with Huey. But when I did it on my GIM, it's like, oh, maybe I need to borrow the maracas from my team because they'd actually be a lot better. And like that, like actually trying to like theory craft and plan a better setup for Huey. Like, yeah, it's not bad. It fits what it needs to. I'm not who Huecoatl is for. I am not who Perilous Moons is for. I am not who Rat Boss is for. And I'm able to, with time and not being a dipshit about it, recognize that and appreciate it, But
it's really funny that when you interact with the content in the manner it was developed for, it's kind of fun.
It really
right?
It sounds so stupid, but you're absolutely right.
Here's my one thing, just because you mentioned Moons of Peril. Moons of Peril is so good, except for just those extremely aggravating moments where the boss is 2 HP and then it sends you into a 50-second phase where you're kicking a fucking icicle.
Yeah.
It's like,
that happens a lot.
It happens so much. And it's like, dude, how have you not, did anyone play test this? This feels awful. This feels genuinely awful. Like, this is horrible.
All 3 of those bosses have something like that with the blood spawns, the ball mechanic, and then kicking the icicle.
Like how is this appropriate? There's got to be some way. You have to have redesigned this to make it possible for you to at least do some sort of damage in these phases. So if it's 1 HP, you can just like, okay, I'm going to skip this shit and risk it. Like, can I please hit you while I'm doing this other thing? It is obnoxious. And that literally ruins the flow of moons, and it happens with all 3 bosses. By the time I've done 3 rounds of it, I'm just like trying to pull my hair out. I'm like, this is so annoying.
And then also, if you have less than like base 70s, Blood Moon is the Verzik of the mid game. That thing just beats the fuck out of you.
Oh, yeah.
It is.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's crazy.
Which is fine. Like, I'm actually okay with that because it actually is some sort of...
It's challenging. It gives people something to strive for.
It's not necessarily the challenge. It's the understanding that, okay, you would benefit with tanky gear. And I understand why they kind of do that. It's like, hey, the tankier you are, the easier time you're going to have. So there is some element of train your defense, get higher, go to Barrows first. If it wasn't for that, it would be like, I'm just going to fully skip all this other stuff. And so I kind of understand where they're coming from. The biggest offender, though, is just you not being able to do anything for a full minute while you go and light these braziers in the ice room with these obstacles moving around, knowing the boss only has 1 HP left, but now it's healing 20s and you can't do anything about it. It's like, what is going on? Yeah,
Get nothing.
I've never stopped to like, process those like not dumb, those like do nothing phases. But now that you mention it, it really does feel bad.
Yeah,
like they probably could have done away with those phases specifically, and Moons of Peril would still be a blast. Like if you just had the Jaguars and the Blood Moon heals, that'd be great. If you just had the healing mechanic and the Blue Moon like slows you down a bit, that's fine. And then Eclipse, you just have that phase where you're doing massive damage and sometimes you miss. Yeah. That would still be a great encounter in all 3 situations, in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel like it is cool going into those phases. It's just that you need to allow the possibility to hit the boss during those phases.
Oh yeah.
So when the little Whopper's moving around the room, you got to follow behind it.
The Whopper.
Yeah. Not the Burger King Whopper, the candy Whopper,
the candy
malt
Whopper.
Ball, yeah. The Whoppers walking around. You have to be able to have. You have to be able to. You got to have the chance to be able to just attack the boss during that. Risk it,
like
run
chance it. Yeah,
yeah. Just run out and hit it. You hit a 0. Oh shit! But hey, guess what? I'm gonna go and hit it again. And there is that element of risk. But it's like, dude, the fact that you know there was no damaging this. You just had to walk around the room 1 full rotation at walking speed. It's like, what is this? Knowing the boss only has 1 HP left, which happens like 50% of the time. I swear.
Yo, Sae Bae, just get better. Stop 1 HPing it. And just get good, noob.
The worst part is people just accept it because we're so used to bad mechanics in this game. We're like, it's all right. It's not that bad. It's like, dude, it is that bad. If we knew any better, we could see how horribly designed that particularly is. Everything else about it is just great. They nailed it with the simplicity of getting food and potions. They have 1 potion. It heals you. It boosts your stats. Or it doesn't heal you. It boosts your stats and it gives you run. Like, that's amazing. Like,
yep.
And it heals your prayer too. It's like, thank you. We don't have to have Noxifer and whatever the hell else those other seeds are. Buchu and what's the other one? God damn it, I can't even remember because I haven't prepped in so long in Chambers.
Booch, Golpar,
Sicily, Golpar. Oh, and now I'm confusing the herbs and like I don't know what it is, but that's way too complex. And it's only 3 things, but it's like Moons nailed it. You just got 1 potion. Boom. Yeah. So a lot of things they did very well, and I think that's why the mistakes or the misses in my book is just they're so egregious because everything else is actually very well designed.
Yeah. I hope they continue innovating mid-game bosses like that, and taking that like concept and that feedback and just making stuff better. Because like we're in a game where Thermi was somebody's best idea, and now we have like Araxor.
Don't do that to poor Thermi. What did Thermi ever do to you?
Nothing, because I can kill him so quickly.
I don't know if you guys heard. I don't know, but I had Mod Arcane on several months back in the summer, and he is a big proponent, and I agree with him on he's okay with adding more Krakens into the game. Like those kind of style that are very old school it's very just, you just click the boss and you hit it and it dies and it hits you like KBD or like
surprising coming from him.
Yeah, I didn't know, but he says, you know, it's okay to have those, but it's also okay to have very advanced bosses. But he's actually, and I actually appreciate where he's coming from, because again, imagine if every single skill became Guardians of the Rift or something that actually takes brain power and stuff. Like, that would be exhausting to know that every single time you want a skill, you have to turn your brain on. And he's fully in favor of, it's okay to have bosses that are just extremely chill and are very old school classic. You hit it, it hits you, and that's the extent of it, instead of making everything hard mode Tob.
I think what
has some value to it.
Yeah.
I agree that's got to stand on, as it were.
I'll be honest, I love it when I used to get a Kraken task. It's just like, okay, I'm gonna just chill here and just hit it. This is fine. Now, of course, some of those tasks would go on a bit too long, and if I really did have that motivation to go grind something hard, it is a little bit annoying. But it's okay chilling here and there.
I think for me, I can't get over the fact of the imbalance of it, because I've said it multiple times. Like a tier 92 Slayer boss, or 93 actually.
Yeah.
Versus a tier 92 with Araxor. Like, those two are not the same.
You're right.
And to me, like, your level progression should come with harder challenges that are more rewarding. But what do you get from Thermi? No, I mean, you
get even less now after the rebalance. Actually,
but the babies dropped the occult, so nothing of use.
Don't talk shit about the dragon chain body. Hold on,
smokestaff.
It's just like the imbalance of what is considered a hard challenge, or should have been a hard challenge.
Yeah,
it was wasted. You know, we can put AFK stuff in the lower tiers where the level matches the required skill.
Yeah,
but I've not really thought about, you know, the arcane sentiment of, like, you know, we should just be able to chill even at high levels. But that's where I think, like, having different boss variants would be cool.
If I said arcane, I meant Husky, mod Husky. I may have
actually said Husky.
I may have said arcane though, actually.
I was somewhat confused because
that didn't way more sense.
It didn't sound like an arcane sentiment.
I think I confused their names.
Husky seems way more down to earth about that shit than arcane.
No, you're right.
Not that they're like bad guys or anything like that. It's just that definitely seems like not an arcane.
When you said arcane, I'm like, oh crap, I may have mixed them up again. I'm imagining Husky's face while I'm saying arcane. It's so bad. But I did have both of them on recently, so maybe that's why I made the mistake. But
no, I agree. It would be cool to have both, though.
I agree, and the standardization, it really doesn't make that much sense for a higher level Slayer boss to have had that. I will say, something like KQ, where there really isn't a Slayer requirement for it, it is just a standalone kind of boss. It's so simple. It's just, it attacks you, you attack it. There's not going to be some crazy stuff going on. You can complexify it. Like, you can add the complexity yourself. And we see that with people alting it. I don't know if you've ever seen a Coxie stream where he has like 7 different alts, and he's just got everything. He's got everything mapped out. So every player's got to be standing on certain tiles, and that, you know, so you add the complexity, you can add it, and that can be very, very satisfying, even as a solo experience. I mean, I had a lot of fun going into KQ and trying to think of how to most efficiently kill this, get the most amount of kills per hour with something so simple. And I feel like it's the same thing with KBD as well. KBD, a lot of people just stand there and shoot it, but there actually are ways of doing the step unders. So you're doing a 1-to-1 attack where you can use a T-bow and flick on your shield, things like that. There's like elements to complexify it. Complexify is a word, right? I'm not just like saying.
We're gonna say it is for the sake of this episode. Yeah,
it's making sense to me, and if you guys getting the point, I like that though.
I do like it, and I think a big key with that kind of a boss is consistency, which, like, I know it's not an original opinion, right? But like, Why is Theater of Blood, I mean, one of the most fun raids in the game? Because it is exactly the same every single time. And I don't think it's because, like, oh, we're creatures of habit and we don't like anything new and we're super boring. It's that when you know where the boss is going to be standing, what the boss is going to do, how much it's going to hit you for, you can develop a lot of, like, really fun and, like, wild tactics for it. Like the emergent gameplay at somewhere like Tob, it must have been great to experience that firsthand, going from like 5 guys with armadillo T-bows to like whatever the fuck we're doing now with like pog tanking and all that. Like that had to be so much fun to watch as that develops, right? And like I think regardless of difficulty level, as long as it's, and I think they've done a pretty good job of this, as long as it's not random, right? Like the boss will randomly throw shit at you, then it makes for a super, super enjoyable boss. And if we're removing the element of randomness by just saying it attacks you, you attack it, you do get the opportunity for some fun shit. You know?
Yeah, one of my favorite fights in Tob is Zarpus. I mean, and the Zarpus almost feels like something like KBD or something, where it's so simple. It's just going to attack every 4 ticks or whatever it does. And it goes around the room and it just does this exact same thing. And the players have created the meta where, you run around and you hit the thing. And some people have now like taken it a step further and they do the 5 ticking, so they're not wasting ticks with their scythe. And there's just like that kind of simplistic fight ends up being really fun. And if you've ever seen people solo it, I've never soloed Top, but like watching a Cold One or Wooks or whoever's doing it, doing the step unders and figuring all that out, it's like you're making the boss complicated in a way where the boss itself is actually very simple. It has like one basic thing going, and just, I don't know, there's something nice about simplicity. And you're right about having a boss be the same thing over and over, where that anticipation, that prediction, you being able to predict what happens next makes a fight so much more enjoyable, because the more you master it, the more you basically make the boss your bitch, and it feels good.
Everybody loves a good power trip, especially when you're rewarded at the end of it too.
Bro, hell yeah. It's I mean, I bring up that example of solo Olm. When you've mastered solo Olm, I mean, you've turned Olm into your bitch. I mean, he's just looking around the room, can't do anything to you. That feels so good.
I imagine I'm not a solo Chambers guy, right? To add to Yaltiman's critique of me being
Don't give him that credit.
Elitist,
Don't give him that.
Nah, he wants his name said, he'll get his name said. I can't solo Olm, and wow, Olm and I go way back, and that boss beats the shit out of me. I have memories of dying so many times to that boss, and I gotta imagine it feels great to roll up knowing damn well that you're not gonna take a single point of damage. You don't even need to prep. That's how confident you are. Fuck it, you don't need bruise. This is gonna be fun. That's gotta someday. Not today,
amazing, dude.
But someday.
Yep, it's just putting in the time, and you've experienced it with other things for sure. It's just like you get good at something and you go in there and you're just like, I got this. This is simple. Yeah, solo Olm is an amazing fight. It took me hundreds and hundreds of hours to like really get it down. But like if I wanted to, I could go into a solo and it's like it's gonna be a very slow fight, but I could actually go in with just no food. It's just like you could do that, you're gonna slow the fight down massively. But as long as you can, the ticks, the rhythm and everything. No, you just do the same like 4-0 the whole time. And then at the head phase, just dodge the crystals, and hopefully you don't get the unscuffed crystals. By the way, they need to fix that. I don't know if you guys know the unscuffed and scuffed.
I hate scuffed crystals, bro.
No. The scuffed are good. The unscuffed is the bad. The unscuffed is where it's like still halfway falling and it hits you.
That's... sorry.
Yeah, the scuffed is when it actually hits you when the crystal hits the ground. That is the actual scuffed version of it, believe it or not. So you want the scuffed version.
Really?
Yes.
Hold on.
Yes.
That's the unintended mechanic?
Yes. And
That's always whenever I do learners and I'm teaching people about like the crystal falling phase. I'm like, here's the deal: you have to be 2 tiles away. Just run for your life because there's a really good chance that you're still gonna get hit. You're gonna be like, oh, I'm a tile away, and it's gonna hit you before the projectile hits the ground. I can't explain why Chambers is old. It's just one of those things we have to deal with.
you know what's crazy though? It happens at Wintertod too. Though there can be scuffed Wintertod and unscuffed where like the brazier, it'll show that it burns out and it'll last one more tick on some worlds. So it's not the same with Ulm where Ulm will just flip flop during the fight. Like it'll just literally flip. It'll just go from scuffed to unscuffed randomly. But with Wintertod, like you'll be on a world where it's just everything is one tick delayed. It's like what is happening? What is happening in the underlying engine that's causing any of this? And by the way, if they could identify and fix Ulm and just make it so everything's scuffed, so everything actually is hitting you when it's supposed to hit you, that would make the fight so much more enjoyable. Being able to actually dodge the crystals and not feel like it's the most unfair bullshit because of a worse, like, you have bad ping or something because you're massing it with some people and you're just getting hit by every crystal.
We call that UK ping where I'm from.
It's so bad. They need to fix that. Holy crap.
The games would probably have to go offline.
The longer they go without fixing it, the more people double down saying, no, it's an expression of skill. I'm like, please, we got to fix these things before years go by where we have so many weirdos claiming that no, this is supposed to be in the game. Like this weird glitchiness is a part of the skill expression. I'm like, holy crap.
It's how they intended the fight to be, and you watch the J-Mon who made the fight go, yeah, that's not at all what we intended to do.
Isn't that the essence of tick manipulation though?
Yeah, no, you bring up a good point, but it's the thing is with tick manipulation, you're actually adding something valuable to the game.
I'm not arguing the how.
I don't feel like any value is really being added by Ulm randomly switching mid-fight to unscuffed where all of a sudden crystals just start hitting you without you being able to react to it properly.
I equate it to how that bitch blue phase at Zulrah just randomly sends a range hit. Like, why?
4 in a row.
Why?
And this is not randomness. That randomness is not good. I think
it's not fun.
If Zulrah was just that blue phase, Zulrah would be a horrible boss. I think Zulrah is great because of what phase it's going to be. You know exactly where to stand. You know exactly what to attack it with. Ready, break. Like that's what makes Zulrah a fun boss to fight. That blue phase. If it were just that blue phase, put that shit in the bin, dude. I don't need whatever blowpipe comes from it. Surely. Can't be worth it.
The blue phase, I feel like they do the same thing with Ulm in a way where Ulm has a 1 in 4 chance of just switching styles. It'll just range you and then it'll just randomly made you a 29 or if you're in CMs like 40s.
Bro, the false Jad is the most irritating thing in this fucking game when you're doing PVM. The false Jad is terrible.
What's the false Jad exactly? What do you mean by that?
Exactly that, like Grotesque Guardians, the Dusk phase. When you're fighting the blue phase, it's Zulrah. When you're fighting Ulm, where like it can switch between range and mage, but we're not gonna tell you when. So fuck you.
Yeah.
Like, yes, it is a 1 in 4 chance. But it's not every 4 attacks it switches, right?
Yep.
But
it would be worse if it was every 4 because then you'd have to start counting, and nobody wants perp in there. Then
it's kind of like Akka without the what's the not feeling special? What's the other one? The butterfly one, whatever. You know what it is. Stay vigilant. That's what it's called. It's just Akka without stay vigilant at that point. Then you got your pseudo Jads like the Zulrah Jad phase and the Hydra Jad phase where like it's always going to alternate, but it's always going to be a consistent pattern. And then you've got Jad and like Nightmare and things like that have an animation and you pray against the animation. And if you pray against it correctly, you don't take any damage. Like,
I would love to give Zulrah an animation, but they roll damage before you even know. So
which is how most projectiles work. So
yeah,
that's the weird thing about RuneScape. Nothing's really standardized. So like I feel like we're moving to this point where like, nah, we kind of like it when you see the projectile and then you can pray against it, like Verzik has, or
Well, here's a
Leviathan.
question.
Yeah.
Would you be okay with a retroactive change to older content?
I would be against it. I would be against it because there's elements of it that it just makes more sense. Like, for example, Bandos flicking. That's one of those places where the whole thing is just pure anticipation.
True.
Like the entire fight is that. Does it feel right? I mean, not really, especially when you're learning it. Everything just feels like counterintuitive. Like, why? Like, you just have to fundamentally understand the fight at like a fundamental level. Just like you have to know exactly what everything's doing. There really is no just jumping in there and learning it on the spot, like without fully understanding every monster in there's tick cycle, what they're doing. But I wouldn't want that to be lost. And I feel like one of the problems would be, if you'd have to start relearning every single thing's.
The Inferno would be terrible. The Inferno would feel terrible.
That would be a shit show. That is actually probably the worst offender. But even Bando, something like the minions chucking their like little thrown axes at you and the mage things, like when are those going to hit you? If you're in the middle of the room, you would have no idea that projectile speed.
True.
So that would make things so
changes
confusing.
As you're running away from Bandos, like trying to do like a what's the Bofa like 5-0 method or something.
Just running
like
from the door on the altar.
I never do that shit on my account. I tell you that. Yet, anyways, I might have to on the Iron Man one day.
Pretty chill.
I'm a GIM with teammates, so I'll just drag them along with me.
No, so I would be against them retroactively doing that because it won't make sense in some pieces of content, but it does make sense in some. And unfortunately, my OCD kind of hates it, but I just understand like it's probably for the best that you just have both kind of.
I guess it works where it works,
Yeah.
DOA is fun.
They've made it work. They've made it work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like it would be cool. I don't know. I wish there was almost more information that was given because, I mean, a lot of the time you just kind of you sort of gotta guess or maybe search it on the wiki if it's presented there. Like at Verzik, how is anybody, if you've played the game for so much and you always know that, okay, you got to pray before the attack shoots out, how would anybody just randomly know, like, oh, Verzik's just different. Verzik P3, you pray it when it hits you. Like, it's just like feels unintuitive in a way, but you just get used to it. You just learn it. You're like, okay, this is the one exception here, and here's another exception over here.
How much of that is reliant, though, on the JMods just like expecting you to know a thing or two about the game, right? Like if you're at the point where you're at Verzik P3 in like a normal mode, and you don't understand the difference between the projectile rolls damage when it's launched versus when it hits you, you might be there a little too early. And again, that's elitist Oxie coming out. But like, I understand there's the concern now with like, did you watch the buy release video for Night at the Theater?
Maybe
it was a while ago, but Jimmy makes a really good point when fighting Verzik with the purple crabs. Like, how in the fucking world am I supposed to know this is killed by poison? There's literally no indication in the game that the purple crab at P2 Verzik needs to be killed with poison. It's like it's just passed on from generation to generation. We don't know how we found that shit out. It's always been that way, and it always will be that way. But that does present a concern for like rookie PVMers trying to get their quest cape, because if your only experience is Barrows and Wintertodd, even entry mode Tob is an overwhelming amount of mechanics that you don't know what to do when you're interacting with them. So I can see why that's a concern with that. Again, with that inconsistency that makes some bosses bad. Yeah. Not that Verzik is a bad fight, but like, I don't know. I feel like we're talking like a fringe case of people versus most people who are theater ready.
Yeah. No, and there is some of that standardization and just like this unknown thing where it's like the only reason I know this is because somebody told me to do it. It's like there's nowhere in the game that'd be indicated. Dude, I can't even imagine. I cannot imagine doing like learning about old school RuneScape today, have never played it, and then going for a quest cape blind. Like,
Ooh.
Jesus Christ, that would be brutal.
Like, there are YouTubers who have like made series documenting that journey.
Yeah, how do you stay spoiler free though, dude? Like, do you just like turn off comments and not have social media? I feel like you have to be like so far removed. Could you imagine you're trying to play this game spoiler free and someone goes, "R.I.P. Neve, I can't believe you got killed in Monkey Madness 2," and someone goes, "Whoa, what do you mean?" Like that's ruined your whole quest experience at that point. You know,
it would be so difficult to do a. Think about have you guys done DT2?
Yeah.
Yes. Dude, oh my god.
That little like Shadow Town before you kill Whisperer. That would have been the most difficult thing without quest helper. I would have been so lost.
I did the quest without a guide.
I woke up that morning.
You did the whole quest without a guide. You never looked at any stream or any video.
I looked at like maybe one puzzle because it was like 11 o'clock at night and my brain was just not working. But pretty much almost the entire thing without a guide.
That is very impressive.
We both did ever since AKD came out.
Yeah, every quest since AKD,
we've pretty much tried to do without a guide. Day one, I woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning to do Desert Treasure 2. I hopped in a voice call. I did all the intro shit, and I'm like, "Yo, I'm gonna go to this Whisperer one first. That sounds fun." And me and my friends were sitting in a call, running around the fucking arena, trying to figure out what to do with all these keys and these shadows and these torches. And then I was the first one that actually got to Whisperer. I was the first one that got to the fight.
That's impressive.
And it's like, okay, the fight's looking good. The projectiles are changing. You have to alternate throughout the fight. It was like, it was so much fun. And then I went to work later that day and I was in the Duke prison. My office door was closed. My shades were drawn. My lights were off. And I had that spooky Duke music playing in the background just by myself. It was very immersive. I did have to do a little bit of wiki searching for that because there's no way I would have figured out those Duke puzzles on my own. But we did DT2 totally blind. And it took me a good 8 hours, 8 or 9 on the first day. And it was crazy. I remember I was streaming in voice chat and I was doing the final fight, but I was deafened because some of my friends had already completed it. And I didn't want any spoilers. So I kept undeafening when shit was happening in that final cutscene, going, "Yo, what the fuck?" And then re-deafening again in the call because I was just like, and then the Barrows brothers show up and it's Sliske. Oh my god. DT2 was fantastic on day one.
All right, what about Song of the Elves light puzzle? Surely
puzzle.
Nobody's doing that blind. Like,
no.
Holy fuck.
I was not at the point in my account where I could have done Song of the Elves when that quest first came out. I think I probably had like base 40s,
but even
and
if
like wasn't even aware.
Even if it isn't at the beginning, even if you're not doing it on day of release, like just doing it and being like, you know what, I'm gonna do this whole quest, no quest helper, no guides. I'm just gonna go do it. That would be a headache, like just a literal headache doing that light puzzle. Oh my god, I can't even imagine.
I have no idea how anyone found that one out. I will say that probably would have broken me. Beneath Cursed Sands,
I too am broken.
The Beneath Cursed Sands broke Michael and I. We had to suck it up and use quest helper at one point.
Yeah.
With the jars, bro, we were getting our shit kicked in at that part of the quest. That was so bad.
I'm pretty sure with Beneath Cursed Sands, we were trying to put out an episode about it or something. And that was the pressure that we put on ourselves to get it done before recording or something. Otherwise, I think it would.
No, it's because you and I are lazy asses, and we didn't do the quest until like a day before TOA came out.
Oh yeah,
it was like the Monday night before TOA released, and you and I are like, we should probably do that fucking quest, shouldn't we? And then we had to like
Dude,
sit in and do it like I think we did it on like a Patreon stream or something. Oh my god, that was brutal.
dude, the thing
That
is
part did break us. That was rough.
that first fight where you're like right outside TOA and you can't pray melee or something, or else you just get fucked. Like, dude, I was literally on my group hardcore, just doing the quest, and I'm just trying to imagine like a new player or somebody that's doing this blind. Why would you add a random ass mechanic? It's like it's core to the game to pray melee when you don't want to get hit by melee. And this guy has a fucking melee weapon, and when you turn it on, he starts bashing you 40s. You have no idea what's happening. In fact,
It
panic
subverts
mode
expectations. It subverts expectations, and it makes it memorable, right? Just
Yeah,
like with
it
the
made it
fucking
memorable that I
sandwich
hated
lady in
that.
DT2.
Like, dude,
Like-
I'm actually just in the middle of a panic attack because I'm on a fucking hardcore and I'm trying to protect myself by praying melee against the guy, and I'm getting whacked 40s. And I had to like quickly find my emergency telly, just get the hell out of there. I had no idea what was happening. Yeah, it was
Dude,
bad.
I wouldn't. Honestly, I would never do anything blind on a hardcore. That's just asking for
It wasn't
it.
even blind though. The thing is, I had the quest helper open. I'm just not reading
no.
I'm not reading the full paragraph where it says "Don't pray melee." It's just like, in fact, I don't even know if it said that. I think,
ain't reading all that. I'm gonna beat the shit out of this.
I'm just
boss.
clicking blue. I'm just clicking blue, and
true.
literally 99.99999% of all enemies that are attacking you with melee, you pray melee and you get at least some sort of defensive advantage. Just
Jagex
this
waking us up.
this one exception, just random, just starts hitting you harder because of it. It's so stupid.
Have you ever considered that? Fuck you. You ever thought of that?
It literally is. It's literally just a big fuck you. It's like, nah, you wanted to play RuneScape? Nah, we're just gonna. In fact, what they should have done is like, you pray melee, we're just gonna literally delete your account, or better yet, just like lower your room crafting 2 levels. Just every time you pray melee up,
you lose.
there's
-2
-2
ability XP.
there's -2 room crafting levels. There you go.
That's funny.
That
would have been more impactful.
I'm sure somebody would use that mechanic somehow. Like, I can get this far and keep my 1 defense pure status. That's crazy. But like,
oh yeah, true.
Praying, we're getting down a stupid rabbit hole. These are the ideas that don't make it into the game for a reason,
Okay, gentlemen, we've been talking for quite a bit. I want to respect your guys' time. I know it's getting late for you guys, but I do want to wrap things up with just pretty much a question of how can people find out more of your guys' content? And Michael, are you the one Oxie, you're the one that streams? Do you still stream, or is this like you're just the podcast gang now? What's happening?
We both used to stream on our own personal Twitch accounts.
Mm-hmm.
I very rarely will throw a stream up on my Twitch account, but mainly you guys can find Michael streaming on our like XP Waste account. We have an XP Waste Twitch account. Go subscribe to that. You can watch Michael occasionally be live. I know his schedule's been a little wonky here and there, but Michael, you're probably better suited to talk about that than I am.
Yeah. I mean, our whole thing is like, we make a weekly podcast. So if you want to interact with us, just listen to our show, and in the description of every episode we have a link tree. But we're usually just like at XP Waste Pod or at XP Waste Podcast on any social media.
I'll have that all linked in the description as well.
We're really active we're really active in our Discord too. So if you wanted to, ever interact with us personally, join TNL, come hang out, join TNL in the clan and game. I'm always online, never offline.
It's kind of crazy. He literally is always online.
Live in the game.
You just log into your bot, Gary's Hood, really quick. Just always logged in. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So I'm gonna have all of your guys' links provided down in the description. Honestly, this was great, guys. When the podcasts go long, and I look at the time and I'm like, oh geez, like we're actually going pretty long. Those are always the best conversations. So you guys made my evening just amazing. It was really nice getting to know you guys a little bit better.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
thanks for having us
too.
Yeah, that's awesome. So if you if you guys are ever needing a guest, you know, I'm not trying to invite myself, but I'm totally available to come on your guys' podcast if you guys ever need a guest and you're like, oh shit, we got to get somebody.
It could happen. We'll get the RuneScape podcast guy. That'll be who we get on our show. So I will say it's been a lot of fun. Glad we're honored to be, you know, on the show. You obviously have I would say the most successful RuneScape podcast. Probably. We joke all the time that we want a golden gnome for podcasting. We just want to be nominated so that we can lose to Sae Bae, and say we got the nomination.
Thing is,
so it's been a lot of fun to be on the show, and like we told you we would yap for 4 hours. Like we told you we had that.
I'm the one cutting it before the 4 hours. I'm just like, no,
I wasn't gonna stop us. Not me.
No, I think it is a good. It's also a good time because if you exhaust everything, then the part 2, you know, a year later or something isn't going to be as quiet. So there's so much more to talk about. Obviously, we're all three just incredible RuneScape nerds. So
hell yeah,
we could continue.
Certified yappers.
Yeah, honestly, dude. Seriously though, you're right about the golden gnome. Where's the podcasting category?
It's time. It's time, Jagex. It's time.
You have
all due respect. It's time
than us. So I think that's your mantle to bear.
Now, I will say though, I mean, your guys' podcast is definitely up there. Many people, you know, that listen to like the Sae Bae cast, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I listen to XP Waste podcast." And just when I look at your guys' Spotify, at least, I mean, you got tons of high ratings. You got more ratings than my show on Spotify.
We just hit 1 million and at like 1.1 million streams across all audio platforms.
Oh yeah, no, that's big. I mean, YouTube for me at least definitely had some like crazy exposure in 2023. I just randomly was getting my episodes just in the algorithm.
Recommended.
I was getting recommended like hard. Completely out of my control. So YouTube did me a huge service. But
nice.
Yeah, I mean, with Spotify, everything just grows very, very steadily. And so I think you guys are definitely killing it. So keep it up. And it sounds like you guys want to keep it up. It sounds like you have a really good thing going for you. So I'm proud of all the RuneScape podcasters. We're all you know, just kind of on that same little boat, seeing where it goes and stuff. I always want other people to start podcasting too, because I feel like the more the merrier, the more shows there are. Like, I don't know. I wanted to
more content, more opinions, you know,
exactly.
more angles of the game that you may not have ever been exposed to. It's good. It's good.
Yeah. So thank you guys for coming on again. Down in the description, guys, go drop them a follow for me down on their Twitch and their Spotify and whatever else is down there. Probably just have your whole link tree down there. They can just click and follow you and everything. But yeah, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Sae Bae.
If there's anything else, any last words from either of you?
I think you should play leagues. I really do.
Yeah, no, a lot of people have told me that.
Give it a try.
I'm extremely
become a god.
I'm extremely addicted to this new Iron Man. This guy's. Yeah. I've gained 2 fishing levels on this podcast. It's been great.
Ooh,
damn! So. I mean, that's the best way to skill. If you guys want a good AFK skilling method, start a RuneScape podcast, and you will
actually
in time you'll max your account. So.
Oh yeah. All right, guys. Thank you all for listening. If you guys want to support the podcast, down in the description, there's also a Patreon link and a YouTube membership link. And that's it for me. Next, we don't have quite a guest scheduled for next, but there will be one coming up soon. I definitely want to hit the 200 episodes before the end of the year, so that will be happening. 2 more. Maybe there will be a special one for 200. Or not totally sure yet.
Early GZ on 200.
Thank you, and for you guys as well. Surely before, I don't know, probably in the summer. I would say for you guys, right?
Yeah, probably in the summer.
Yeah.
Nice. Boon Bape as well is hitting 200 very soon. So
maybe we'll have a 200 mil party. All 4 of us, you know, all 3 shows get together and we sync up our 200s.
I just have to you're so publish
close.
an episode. I just have to not publish an episode until the summer.
We got to start cramming these episodes if we're going to catch up.
3 a day. All right. Well, I'm not going to keep you guys any longer. Thank you all for listening, and we will catch you in the next one.
Bye, everyone.
Peace.